Hey, good evening, Cryptid fans. Welcome to Old Line Cryptids, Spencer. That's the name of the show, Old Line Cryptids. And don't you ever forget it, you little shit. But anyway,
we don't even watch the show anyway. So.
I know he don't. That's okay. I'll get even with him. I'll call him and get even with him. It's all right. All jokes aside, it's all good. Anyway, we got like the world-renowned top researcher. Did you like that double take I got?
Yeah.
We got Roger Williams with us tonight, man, from Squatchin Holler.
Y'all, that's funny.
Yeah, and yes, we're 12 minutes late. There's a reason we're 12 minutes late because he already started into his stories and we weren't even live yet. So. Well, it's all good, man. It's all good.
I'm the accidental researcher. It's like,
that's what happened to me, Roger.
Yeah, all of us, really.
And people like make fun of you for not, having 100 pounds of plaster of Paris with you everywhere you go, and measuring tapes but it's like I said, if I'd have had any experience at all, I would have had some amazing audio. And there's a couple of things. Even Heather says, "God, I wish we'd had a recorder at that time." And one reason is so we could let somebody look at it, but it's just like hunting, whatever, any kind of animal. They got minds of their own, and always expect the unexpected, but it's hard.
Yeah, absolutely. How's Jeffrey tonight?
I'm here.
Well, really? You think?
Fight with livestock, the usual.
I'm trying to read what your T-shirt says. Maybe just the top line's probably good enough. I'm afraid to see what the rest of it says.
It's got a cow on it.
No, who didn't know that?
It says udder on the bottom.
Okay. It says udder on the bottom.
Yeah, Dad liked no udder.
Not that you're a dairy farmer.
Yeah.
Brother Blaylock.
Not that I work cows for a living or anything,
Okay, you're cutting in on Blaylock time here. Brother Blaylock, how are you, buddy? Don't freeze up now, damn it. I'm asking you questions. David Blaylock. Hello. It's going to be a long night in Oregon.
Yeah.
Me. But anyway, man.
Started with my stuff.
Yeah, Roger's having trouble again with the home computer system. We got to go through there and see what's up with that. We got a cell phone going here, so.
Roger's gonna have to fix that. He starts doing shows again.
I know. I guess it's like anything else. You don't use it, you lose it. It was all greased up and ready to go back a few months ago, but it's having trouble. I don't know. And I'm not a computer guy, so.
Yeah, computers.
You'd laugh if you heard Jerry sometimes. We're trying to get going, and he's over there, smacking it. Trying to get
my Lord. I've got wires flying everywhere. Why ain't this working? Why ain't that working? Yeah. All I do is push one button. I forgot to push, and it worked fine.
Right. It's probably something simple on my end, too. So.
It's the one cord you forgot was loose.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, where does this go? Why is this not hooked up? Okay.
But anyway, we got the.
It's like the time my friends and I took an engine apart and it was a lawnmower engine. We put it back together and we're like, why is the oil slinger out here? We tear the whole engine apart again that same night, put it back together.
Yeah, chat's already starting to roll on here. So we got Brother Rivers in there, and Erica, Catherine, Billy,
renovations.
Bunch of people in there. So
and
chat's going to be busy tonight.
I want to do this. Everybody that's in chat, I can't see chat. I'm going to do this. Hello, everybody. And say hi to everybody all at once.
I'll try to once you've already proved to me, all I got to do is say, Roger, tell us what's up. And all I'm going to do is sit in the background, let you just talk. So.
I ain't saying nothing.
That's all good, man. That's all good. That's what it's all about. But you had planned to go to LBL today. I know you don't want me to probably say this, but you didn't make it today, obviously, because of your hip.
Yeah.
As far as the ride goes and everything. So.
Yeah, and it's it takes us 3.5 hours to get there, and wow. That's not really that bad. I mean,
No.
Ask me how long it takes me and Jeff to get there. Add
How
12
long?
hours to that.
12 hours. Yeah,
Yeah.
now that's
Close to it. Yeah.
a haul.
About
So
nine,
I mean,
about
it
9 or
takes
10 hours.
I think it's 14 hours to Sylacauga, the marks.
woo, Lord.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny is that takes us about 3.5 to get to from here. 3 hours. So we're right in the middle. But you know, we've taken a couple vacations out in Wyoming, and when your short drive is 5 hours to get somewhere, you know, and I used to drive, you know, for a couple of the companies I worked for, I drove, so I enjoy it. Anything that's within 3 hours is a day trip. You know, you can go and hang out for a while. But I woke up this morning, my hip just wasn't feeling it, because you know, you get up there, it's a 3 hour voluntary trip up there. It's a 3 hour mandatory trip back. So I didn't know if I needed to go or not, but maybe coming up in a couple weeks we can make it up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's when I leave here, I used to go down to Tennessee, well, Miller Coliseum in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. It's 12 hours to get to there. So
Yeah,
I referred this mayor
Murfreesboro.
over to LBL.
Murfreesboro is about, depending on where I go in Murfreesboro, is 45 minutes to the south end, and then you know, an hour to the north end. So
Yeah.
that's not too far.
10-4.
You need to come to Chapel Hill.
Yeah, I know. That's on my bucket list one day. Yeah.
I
Buddy
mean,
of mine's
that's
been there. He's twisting my arm to go. So we'll probably
yeah.
make
I
a
mean,
trip down
it's
there sometime. Yep.
yeah. Let me know. We'll
That's a big pool down there. That's a good one, they say. So
yeah, and it's not far. When y'all hear me talk about our north end place that we go,
Yeah.
looking for boogers and stuff, as a crow flies, it's probably not 7 to 10 miles to Chapel Hill. So
How far is it from
Okay.
where you live?
not far. We can be there. It takes us about. I leave my driveway and I can be there in about 20 minutes.
Erica, you got that right. You are 100% correct.
You got yes, ma'am.
Traffic is
The
horrible.
last time I was down your way, I was pig hunting on a preserve not far from Jack Daniels.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember what town that was. I can't just for the life of me can't.
Was it just outside of Fayetteville to the east?
It might have been.
Well, I know
That's
there's
in
a hunting
Lynchburg,
property.
right? Or something.
Yeah, Lynchburg. It takes about, that's about a 40-minute drive probably
Hey, Barry.
from here.
Okay.
But that's where my son's been
Yeah.
working a lot.
Had to get some better back support, Barry. That other chair was killing me trying to lean forward all the time.
And if you break that down in English, that means I fall asleep in my other chair all the time. That's what that means.
Where's
I was
David?
David, he's having
He's having
Cellular
some technical
issues.
difficulties.
and he didn't even talk about UFOs this time. So
Uh-oh.
You know, Roger, we have never finished his UFO story. Every time he's tried to do it himself,
don't start, Jeff.
it's like the government just cuts the computer off.
It's really weird. Every time he goes to get in, he could have great service the whole show. And I think the last time he tried to tell a story, it locked up. Yep.
Well,
D.A. Roberts is in the house. Look at that.
Well, there's some things, you know, if you talk about crazy things happen with electronics and some platforms. I think that might be ending for a little while, but maybe it'll free us up to talk about whatever we want to. Pretty much, we'll see. But I've heard some good things on that end. But yeah, there's been times when I've talked to friends on the phone. I'm sure I don't know if this happened to you guys. Don Odom, my old friend's a former game warden. We talk a lot, and he's got deep into some subjects, and you know, phone cut out or to cut us off and have to call each other back. He swears up and down it's powers that be listening, but but he gets pretty deep in some things. But what's wild is some of the things we're talking about now, he was talking about 25, 30 years ago when I was younger, and I thought he was crazy. Now it's just normal, everyday talk, and the government's admitting to some of it. So, you know,
I
you
can't
never know.
resist. I got to keep this stuff going here.
Work for you.
In case you haven't noticed, Barry's second job is giving Jeff a hard time.
Ever since I conned him into coming on 22 hours ahead of time, he's been giving me unholy hell.
Oh yeah,
Hey,
not going to give you a minute's break.
that's what I like about everybody
Yeah.
that we all know. You know, families do that, and I think we're all like when I came on earlier and you said, "Nice to meet you." Finally, I'm like, wait a minute, we haven't formally met, because you know you watch shows and you hear people
Yeah.
talk, and you get so comfortable with people. Like when we showed up at LBL, David hadn't was David there yet? I'm not sure, but so the first person I came in contact with that I never had met before was Misty and JR. But there were some people around, and I was wanting to talk to everybody. And I went back to our tent, and Heather's over there, and I'm like, oh crap, I gotta go back over there. I didn't say hi to Misty and JR because I'm so comfortable. Like everybody talks all the time, and that was our first actual meeting. You know, even with Spencer, I'd been to Greg's a couple times, but we all get comfortable with each other, and it's a great thing. I wished I compare it to the old days when we could sit out on the back porch and talk, you know, around the fire or whatever. People don't do that anymore.
Damn it, Pat.
Patrick is somebody. I got a friend request from Patrick today on Facebook, and I'm already friends with him. Did y'all get it?
I think it's his old one. I think he's somebody trying to hack, because I got the same thing.
Okay. Yeah. I meant to say something to him.
Yep. Yeah, that happens a lot.
That's why River Morris was MIA there for a week or two, because he got hacked.
Yeah. Man, it's bad. You have to worry about stuff like that, but people don't have anything better to do. I can't even get my computer to work right, and they know how to do that stuff.
Well, you know, Facebook thinks it's appropriate to let that adult content leak on there.
Yeah.
And,
oh, Billy.
Get him, brother Billy. Get him.
Billy called me and checked on me a few days ago, and he said, I just want to check on you. And 3 hours later, we hung the phone up.
Oh, my goodness.
He had some pretty cool stories. Billy's a good one, y'all.
Billy is a good one.
Yeah. We were talking on the phone, and he had some show playing in the background. And somebody on the show mentioned his name. He said, hold on, they're talking about me. I don't know what they're talking about. He said, this weird. But he keeps disappearing.
I'm sorry. That's that virtual background.
Yeah.
See, the first background he ordered was that an Amazon?
I don't know what company it was.
But it was terrible. He gave it to me, and then we changed the name, so we had to scrap them.
Yeah. Yeah, the name changed after what? 3 shows, 4 shows, didn't take long.
After our first co-host, we
yeah, that was the end of the line for this guy.
Yeah,
but anyway, Roger, it's all about you, man. Yankee, the dairy farming dwarf. Skillet said that for your information. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
You know how much hell we catch for being above the line, Roger?
Oh, my goodness. We don't know nothing about barbecue. We don't know nothing about this. We don't know nothing about bull. We know plenty. Believe me. And I'm not afraid of white sauce instead of regular barbecue.
I'm not either. I made my own. It was delicious.
Hey, yeah. You know, we had our store on the interstate for almost 30 years. And I got to meet people from all over the country, all over the world. It was a crazy time when Atlanta had the Olympics. There was people from other countries. They'd buy a beer and they'd crack it open right there inside the store. I'm like, no, you can't do that here. You know, oh, why not? You know, you can't do that. He said, well, that's stupid. You know, so, but the thing was, me being curious about everything, I would learn about. That's the first thing you'd ask about the food and how they cooked it or whatever. I'll try anything. Is one time, you know, and that it's like other things. You tell Spencer you might miss out on the best barbecue in the world if you don't give it a try.
Yeah, Spencer looks like he's pretty good with ribs and stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, ribs are hard to mess up.
You should just accidentally dump some of that white sauce on it the next time you're making
No, every time I think of Spencer, and my kids are of an age where I watched those same 7 episodes of SpongeBob over and over and over and over and over. And
it seems like there's only 7 episodes of SpongeBob.
I remember one time a new one come on, and I about threw a fit, like, yes, finally. But I was more happy than the kids. But
we're starting to become the anti-Spencer show, unfortunately.
Well, the thing.
Anyway, I got a question. Do you know how to start a fire?
Me?
Yeah, here comes the Spencer stuff. Here we go. Do you know how to start
I've got lighters and matches and batteries and Brillo pads and
Chad's taking over for Schilling now.
If I have to start a fire with a stick, we're just gonna freeze to death.
I still laugh about you splitting firewood when he was trying to do it one-handed.
Oh my God!
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. That's what. See, some of that stuff's not supposed to get out because we're so mean to each other, and so Spencer made a good video, but as soon as he made the video,
Roger, how many takes did it take for him to get that one-handed?
I don't know, and that's what I told him. If I had a $2,000 axe, I might be able to do it too. Because I was like, some Hilton Garden Inn is missing their axe. It was like a cattle axe. You know what I mean? It was the prettiest thing I've ever seen.
I saw that, and I was like, what place did he steal that fireman's axe?
Right, I know. It's like chromed out, and just me and Greg was giving him hell, and Greg said, man, he almost split both of them. If that thing would have went through and split both of them, we never heard the end of it. But I told him, I lied. I said, I live in the city limits. Those things are outlawed here. We have to.
I carry a Bernzomatic torch. That's how I start my fires.
Well, see.
Yeah. Well, I'm still laughing, Jerry, about when you were camping last month and the neighbor was trying to get his started.
Oh, my Lord.
He's texting me, giving me the play-by-play of this guy trying to start his fire.
Oh. Me and Greg have a story, but I'm not going to tell it. If we get in private somewhere, and it's not about Spencer. It's not about Spencer.
Have to do one of those after-hours phone calls.
Yeah, it's not about Spencer. And
we'll save that for the Beards and Boogers show.
Yeah, we were watching somebody try to start a fire one time, and we were looking at each other like, "What in the hell?" But anyway.
So anyway.
There's things I can't do well. So here's the thing. Everybody, I laugh at myself, so I'm dang sure gonna laugh at you. You know what I mean? So
where'd it go? There it is. Hey, look, Jeff is awake. I'm reading it because Roger can't see it.
We're gonna be good tonight. I ain't gonna fall asleep.
I can when you highlight the comments, I can see it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've seen those pictures. Like, the stuff that's not supposed to get out there like us. Then Jeff will be like, fall asleep. I'm like, what'd they do?
Wake up, Jeff.
Thank God I didn't fall asleep on DA's show the other night, or I would never heard it.
Oh, I bet. So, Roger, I know you've told your story many times. I'm going to ask one old question.
Okay.
What got you started?
It just right place at the right time kind of thing. I grew, I grew up hunting like all y'all probably, and lived out in the country, didn't have anything to do. We didn't even have dial up at the time. So if you were doing anything, you were either practicing shooting, working in the garden, feeding the animals, stuff like that. We didn't have a big farm or anything, but we had a few chickens and whatever. So, I did breed some. I liked mystery stuff like that, but um, being out that far away from town, I didn't have library access either. So when you get bored, you go to the woods or you go fishing or whatever. My thing was when I couldn't get out, I was always scanning the fields behind the house where I hunted. And even living away, when I went out on my own, I had big field behind my house, and my brother-in-law at the time was like, "How do you see stuff like that?" And I'm like, "Well, I know every little rock and every little patch of grass, every little hill or whatever." And that's kind of what I was doing. I was bored and went out into the field there, come out the side door, went across. There was an access road to a cemetery up on top of the hill behind us. And I just stepped out in that field and was looking up there, and there was nothing. And the leaves were off the trees. Uh, you know, uh, the field was green. But just if I'd have left right then, we probably wouldn't be sitting here. If I'd have went 15 minutes earlier, I wouldn't be sitting here. It was just that perfect timing. I stepped out there, and I sat on where they cleaned the field years ago. There was a mound of dirt in the corner, and I had a chair in there with just weeds around me. I had me a path in there, and I could get in there and sit down. It was as good as a blind, and I could see that field. I could see up the hill beside me where the gate was open, and they would come through there, and I could see across the dry creek bed to the other field. It was really close. So I just kind of went out there and looked, didn't see any rabbits, didn't see anything that day. And just all of a sudden there was movement. And when you see movement, you just look. And in interviewing people and reading stuff, people, they always say the first thing I noticed was this or that. Well, what's crazy is when you get a good look with nothing in between you, and the first thing you notice is everything about this is wrong. The size, the color. I've seen my dad up there a bunch of times coming back. He was 5'8" and you can't wrap your head around everything all at once. The first time I ever saw a mountain lion, I had the same reaction. Really, it's like they're not supposed to be here, but here's one. There it is, and it kind of you're not supposed to be seeing. You can go back to the mountain lion. I remember when I got to our store, it was a mile from our house where I saw the Bigfoot to the store. I had seen the mountain lion sneaking up on a raccoon one night in the middle of the road. And when I got to our store, which I was halfway, when I walked in, everybody's like, "What's wrong with you? You look like you've seen a ghost." Because things change. I go to hunting, I'm hunting, and now I'm having like immediately, well, I've got to be careful because I've got to look up in trees now. I don't know anything about mountain lions. They're not supposed to be here. So getting back to the Bigfoot, you're seeing something that you're taking in all this information. It's confusing, scary. And I just kind of stood there. And when it stepped out, there's a limb that came out and dipped down a little bit, which comes into play later. And it's standing under there, and that opening at the top of the hill that I talked about where the gate was, where the deer come through, that was the easiest, or that was the quickest, or no, go back. That was the shortest point between where it was at and to get to that back field. But it was a tough walk. And I had done it several times, but it was so bad. that I would go the long way a lot of times, go around the field, go up the access road, and then go. It's an easier walk because there was no grass, right? Even though it was pretty steep at one point, it was a shorter, steep point. It gradually went up, and then it got really steep, and then there you're there. Well, this point I'd walked up a lot of times, and with the grass being intertwined, and the old man didn't cut that field a lot right there at the hill. I knew, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I knew how when I walked up through there, the stumbling and throwing my legs out up and over, and leaning forward and stumbling, whatever. Well, this thing was looking at that point where the gate stayed open. It was actually honeysuckles and everything had grown over it, and you couldn't shut it. It was an old wooden gate. It was really old. So it's looking up that way, and I'm just stunned, and I see no neckline, no hat, no, it's all one color. And just before it took off, it kind of like it acknowledged that it knew I was there. And it just did a little turn at the waist, and the shoulders turned, and it looked right at me. And that's the oh crap moment, do I run? We were talking about slow people. I've always been big and slow, but the distance, about 180 yards, gave me a little. I guess I was naive, like I can make it to the back door 30 yards before it can make the 180. So what I've learned in the past couple of years or 4 years is I probably couldn't make it,
Right.
But I stayed there. I was in awe, and it walked up the hill, and y'all know how a walking horse walks. Its back was straighter than mine would have been, and it just leg out in front, up and over, and what would have taken me, depending on how many times I stopped, 5 minutes to almost 10 minutes probably to get up through there, having to stop and whatever. You're talking about this whole thing only lasted maybe 30 seconds. That's from the time it stepped out, did what it was doing, and then so it probably only took 10 seconds to walk up the hill. That right there let me know that something wasn't right. That's the only way. People are like, well, what were the ratio? I don't know. I didn't. I was focused on the whole thing. It was too far to see a face. But that motion of the walk was very telling. And later, when we went up there, I told my dad about it. He laughed at first, but after they had something happen to them one night down the road a ways, he came back and asked me how big was that thing you said you saw. And when I told him, he said, there's no way. We went up there, and I'd already been there myself, and I can reach about 7'5", 7'6" on my tiptoes. And so when we did that, it put where the limb was at, it would probably put this thing, we're going to, give or take, because we don't know for sure, anywhere between 7.5 foot. And that's, give or take, but, and another thing that was odd, we'd all seen the shaky Patty video at that time. I think everybody in the world had seen that before MK and all them stabilized it and did the color and all that. But you could see the shape of the Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
And this one was built more athletic, broader shoulders, when I say thin waist, I don't mean a real thin waist. I mean thinner than what we saw. I mean, at that time, I didn't even know the Patty was a female,
Right. And
the information, access to information here was really limited on stuff like that. So, the guys, David growing up out Pacific Northwest or whatever, they probably had people that researched way before anybody here did, um, and I know some people that got interested in it would go to those people. I've heard and seen on shows. Here, we just didn't have anything. But what I'm finding out now, there were plenty of sightings. There were plenty of people that lived with them like Greg do, but it didn't get out of the family. The road we was on yesterday, I've been hearing stories, and when I went on that road, I could see why. It's one of the most rural spots that I've been to close to here. And the main reason is there's just a few families that own a lot of acreage, been in the families for a long time.
That's exactly why.
And they haven't done anything with it. It's not developed. Now, with that first encounter, then you get to doubting yourself a little bit. Did I really see that or whatever? But the thing I always go back to, there's three things. There's the color, and y'all, I've said this before, but if you got family members you've been around all your life, if you've got animals, you can tell sometimes what an animal is in low light because of the way it's moving, how an animal moves, what more likely it's going to be. You can tell if Uncle Joe is up there, the way he's moving. You don't have to see his face, right? He might have a certain gait, certain size or whatever. With this thing here, it was the color, the all one color. And I tell people the closest I can get is the Hershey milk chocolate bar, and not that outside wrapper, it's real dark, but the bar itself. And people can say, well, is it reddish? Well, it could have had some reddish in it, but that's what burned into my memory. Hold on. But then you got the size. And when people try to explain how big these things are, I've stood beside NFL linemen, the Titans and stuff back in the day when they first got here. They did meet and greets and all that stuff. Stood beside them, and some of those guys are monsters, but they're only 300 pounds. They might be 6'5", 6'8", but they're only 290, 325. Yeah. And only thing you can go back to is you've seen 900-pound, 1,200-pound bulls, 1,500-pound bulls, and that muscle. So I've guesstimated to my best ability somewhere between 700 and 900. I don't know, but even for me to say 700, if I see a deer, and we've killed a lot of deer and we've weighed them on the hoof, whatever. If I see a deer's 150 pounds, I'm gonna tell you that's about 140, 160. If I see one by looking, its neck's bigger and it's got more mass here or there, it might be pushing 180, 190. Things are around like that, and I don't have now I've got references I can go to with humans, big humans, with these pro players and stuff like that. But y'all, that's the hardest part to convey. Is you can say 7 foot all day long, and you can say 8 foot all day long, and most people don't realize how tall 8 foot is. But you throw that mass on there. You take a man that's a wrestler or a basketball player, and let's say he's 7'2", and he's 260 or whatever, or a football player, and then you multiply that times 3.
Right.
And you have to add it to other places, because it might. Let's say you add 150 pounds to the shoulders. 150 pounds to the shoulders. You ever carried around a 15-pound country hound?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I have people, well, it probably was this, or probably no, it was not.
You can't mistake it. You can't mistake
it. it's just like that mountain lion. People are like, oh, it's probably a bobcat. I'm like, hold on a second. Do bobcats have tails? Well, they have, they can have a little, yeah. Well, this cat tail was longer than a bobcat. So I don't think it was a bobcat,
No.
and so that feature on that cat, which of course I knew as soon as I saw it what it was, it shouldn't have been there. And then we started seeing more and more and more and more and bigger. But the first time I ever saw two male mountain lions running together, I about flipped out too, because the first one I saw was probably, looking back the way it was built, was probably a young female in the 65, 70-pound range. The males that we started seeing years later, when you can see muscles working from 50 yards away, and that chest is different. I can look now at a mountain lion at 100 yards and pretty much tell you whether it's a male or female, because they're built different, right? So, but at first I couldn't, because I didn't have any experience with it. I didn't have any experience with a Bigfoot, so I didn't know to look and see where the arms were hitting at the knees and stuff like that. I didn't know, try to look at the feet or whatever. I just knew what I was seeing was not right. And then in my reality of what I knew was supposed to exist, and here's what happens. Larry Porch, I'll always remember this. I did their show with him and Mark Newbill, and Larry, you know how Larry is. He's quiet, but when he says something, it's pretty good. And he laughed. He said, "Well, what you have is you have the Roger 5 minutes before you saw the Bigfoot, and then you have the Roger 5 minutes after you saw the Bigfoot." And I said, that's the best way to explain it, because I started questioning everything. Because if this thing is real, and I've been told it wasn't, we all been told it was not, what else is real?
Right.
And this is something I use to try to explain it to people. I don't, if I can say it right, I come up with this. I don't know whether I'm open-minded because I saw a Bigfoot, or I saw a Bigfoot because I'm open-minded. That gets into another whole thing we've learned about with people that's experienced this. And when I first started talking to people, and the first show I did, like, hey, what's your idea, between the flesh and blood and the woo? And I'm like, I really didn't know. What do you mean? And so I probably gave a number that was probably 95 to 5. And what I tell people a lot of times, don't get on to people if you see them say, well, I think it's 95-5, but then 2 years later, it's probably 60-40. If you're open-minded and you come in contact with people that can tell you stories, and and then if you start doing this, things will start happening that you can't explain. And if you've got an open mind, you've got to at least entertain something's going on. Now, I don't know what it is. I don't know whether some of these areas that they live are suitable for other things to be at. Whether it's the terrain, or whether it's the makeup of the geological, the rocks and the crystals and all that. I don't know if it's the waters, the caves. I don't know. But I do know we've been out, hunting for Bigfoot, and other craps happened to us. And not stuff it's like, hey, did you kind of see something over there? I'm talking like with witnesses. And that night that we had the orb in the tree, it wasn't round, but it was about, I don't know, say about a foot long, but it was pulsating. Shouldn't have been there. It was 20 yards away, 10 foot up in the tree.
That's the creepy stuff, yeah.
And it lasted 20 minutes. It wasn't like, oh, did you get a glimpse of that? This is before I started carrying cameras and phones and got into that mode, right? If it happened tonight, me and Jeffrey was out there talking and we saw it, the first thing I would do would be get out something to try to document it, right? This lasted about 20 minutes, to the point where I was pulling the truck to get to different angles on it, Now, I wasn't getting out and going over there because I didn't know what it was, but Heather spotted it, and she's not. Let's put it this way: a lot of this stuff's never entered her world until she met me. But she's seen enough stuff and had enough stuff happen while we were out at night or in the daytime. Weirdness happen that, there's up to 4 of us there and 4 witnesses. She's seen enough and had enough happen. The same thing with my son. He didn't know whether to believe me or not. But now that we've had the things happen that we've had to happen, he'll tell people, I haven't seen one, but I've had some crazy, crazy shit happen. And he said, when you have something throw a 40 or 50 pound boulder through the trees, and it's mad and it's huffing and growling and it's picking up logs and sliding it to it and then hitting a tree with it and the top goes through the woods. He said, until that happens to you, there's nothing on this planet. He's an animal guy. He said, there's nothing that I know of on this planet that can. He said, I don't know people big enough to do that.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I get off track, but that started it. And then there's some things that happened when I was right during that time that I didn't realize could be tied to that. But I believe with all the reports I've gotten now, with so-called putting the pins on the map, people that wouldn't come out and tell about it, and these ridges, and I pinpointed a spot where there's a crossing under a major interstate, and it just hit me a while back that I'm thinking, how did they get from this ridge to this ridge that run north and south without crossing the interstate? And it hit me when they bought that land years ago in the 60s to build that I-65 through there. The deal was the farmer had both sides of the road in it was a big farm. They put crossings under the interstate for him, for his cows. And I was talking to Don the other night. He lives over close to there. I said, Don, something that just hit me. I said, not too far from you, there are crossings under that interstate. He said, there are. And they're so big that there was a wreck one time. A family ran off in there in a Volkswagen in the early 70s, and they didn't find them for a long time. So it's big enough that whatever wants to cross under there can. Now, I've got to find out who owns it, and I don't know the laws about maybe pulling over on the interstate and hopping a fence. I don't know what kind of right-of-ways there, but that's something I'm going to be checking on because it's always wet in there. There's always a little layer of mud or whatever. And, man, that'd be a good place to put up something to try to record something. But anyway, y'all, but what I think, let me go back to what I think caused this thing to be mad. We'd heard the screams when I was young. They were strip mining for phosphate, and they tore up, I don't know how many, just knowing where they did it at. If I said a couple 1,000 acres, that would probably be close. And they stayed in there for 3 years probably. But all of those woods, those thick woods, turned into fields pretty much. And even some of the old houses that were the old homesteads back there, they're gone. And after I saw this thing, I got to thinking, I'm like, you know what? If there's something this big out there, I never had thought about footprints. I was like, that dirt that they're moving around up there, that might be a good place to go look. So I'd hop the fence on the weekends when they weren't working, and I'd look around. And I never found anything. Never found a footprint until the first footprint we found. There was a maybe one on the south end where we hunt, where we had the rock thrown at us in 2020. But I didn't even start looking again until we had that rock thrown at us, and found that tree break. But the first one was, hold on, I'm drawing a blank here. I know we found some at LBL. We found some behind Greg's down there, and we found some in Lincoln County, close to, you were talking about Lynchburg, Jack Daniels and
Yeah.
all that. We found some probably not 10, 15 miles of the crow flies there on the north end of that county. And I don't remember which one the first one was.
Wake up, Jeff.
Wake up. Anyway, y'all, I'm sorry.
No,
I get to
Continue
rambling
on,
and
please. No, that's what it's about. The boss is here. You better wake up now.
What boss?
but yeah, but
I
I'm
guess
gonna
I gotta wake up now.
Uh-oh. But I will tell y'all, with all of that that happened, there's some other stuff with the screams and actually seeing one. Nothing happened. We moved from there, and nothing happened. We had my mom and dad bought this farm, and I stayed in the woods all the time. But nothing weird happened. Nothing like that. It was one thing one time. I was thinking something stepped on you know how a tree will fall, and it sounded like it was maybe this big around, and I had shot a deer, and it was it was in the evening. I called my cousin. He's me and him together. We track deer for people sometimes and used to. And I was like, hey man, I need cause it was getting dark, and I was like, I need my tracking buddy. Come on over here. I said, I'll give you, I'll give him part of it, for helping me. And we went in. He's like Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett had a kid. I mean, he's one of these guys that always filled his freezer to feed his family, and he would be like, man, I'm getting low on whatever. I'm like, well, it ain't the season. I'm not going to. But he just did what he had to do to survive. And he was one of the best people to have out in the woods with you. Now, he's never had anything happen either. He thinks I'm lying to everybody, but because and I said, the reason you wouldn't see one, because they know you would shoot them. He wouldn't even, he's one of those guys. If people believe that these things can read your intentions, I said, if that's true, you'll never see one. Because he'd be the first one. But we were trying to find this deer, and what he had done, when they know they're going to die, they're injured really bad, they'll dive into some of the thickest stuff. They'll dive up into bushes, they'll get honeysuckle, whatever. They'll hide. They'll try to hide. I've seen them. Their last thing was that they jumped, 6 or 7 yards and landed head first in some stuff just to get in there.
The last
well,
one
we
I
knew
killed
that.
died in a briar patch.
Yeah, and we were getting close to all that, and I knew what done happened, but there was a bunch of overgrowth. But then I could smell the urine and the everything, that death smell. I knew. I said, well, he's here somewhere. He's right up here somewhere. Well, we're getting close. It's dark. I got a flashlight and a shotgun, and he's got a flashlight, and he's leading the way. We're going really slow, and all of a sudden, this it's on the ground, I thought, but it snapped. I mean, and I thought something stepped on that. There are no cows. There nothing. There shouldn't be anybody back there. I mean, no reason. Because there's 500 acres back there that the guy don't even want you looking on it, much less hunt it, right? And we're talking probably 7 o'clock at night by the time we get everything and get back up there. And so this crack, and I never thought of something breaking a tree, And so I'm thinking something stepped on it. Now that scared us, because whatever just broke that was heavy. Now it could have been a male mountain lion, right? It could have been that. But he turned around and looked at me. He said, don't you let that SOB get us, because I had the gun. And to this day, we don't know what he meant by it, as far as he said, I didn't know what it was, but it was big. Whatever it was big. And it definitely could have been, 180-pound male mountain lion that stepped on something. But
yeah,
as thick as that sounded, I don't think that would have broke it. But, I I remember him dragging the deer out and me walking backwards behind him, facing with a flashlight that way. And when we field dressed this thing and everything with me helping when I could and then watching around us. But I don't know what that was. But that's the only thing I can think of in years and years of hunting that place that possibly could have been something, you know? And then I didn't have anything happen until 2020 when that rock got thrown at us. And my son, you know, this is funny how I told him the story. I'm cooking one day. This is during the day, and he's in the living room, and I hear this sound coming from his phone, and I didn't know anything about YouTube, you know, or anything like that. I knew he played games on his phone and stuff like that, and I froze in my tracks. I'm like, what the crap? And I peeked around the corner. I'm like, what are you listening to? What are you watching? He's like, oh, there's this new show called Finding Bigfoot. It's been on about 3 years, and supposedly this guy named Moneymaker, he caught that in Ohio, and they caught the Ohio How, and it's, I'm putting two and two together. I'm like, well, wait a minute. What you just played is supposed to be a Bigfoot? He said, supposed to be. I said, play that again. He played it again. I was like, oh, shit. So play it again. And he did. I'm like, he said, what's wrong? I said, we got to talk. I said, I've heard that like a half a dozen times. But that phone doesn't do it justice. You know, the first time I ever heard it, oh, man.
Jeff! Jeff!
I want to knock on, hey.
Wake up!
Hey.
Sorry, I was looking at my.
Yeah, you're looking at, yeah. Sorry, Roger. Go ahead, bro.
You're good. You're good. But yeah, that's how that got started. I told him I'd heard that sound several times. Didn't know what it was. I knew not only was it loud, but it vibrated you a little bit. You know, it's like, and I'm talking about from 600 or 700 yards away. You know, but anyway, it's weird how all that got brought up, and that's when I started like. He's like, yeah, you can get on YouTube, and that's how I found MK Davis and Scott Carpenter, and because I think one of the first thing I looked up was like Bigfoot Tennessee. Google that, right? And then you start getting these. And one thing I found out, there's a lot of BS out there. It was a ton of it back then, like, you know, and you can look at it and tell it's, you know, pretty much fake or whatever. But that's kind of, and you know, that's the long version. But that's how all of this got started. And then I was at work, and we were in a cage, so we were protected, and we were inspecting parts for Dodge for headlights. And they told us we could listen to podcasts. This has probably been a couple years ago now, a little longer. And so I didn't have anything. And this young girl, she's like, "Hey, you want to listen? I can give you one of my earbuds or whatever, and you can listen. What do you want to listen to?" I said, "I'm fine with whatever you listen to." She said, "Well, I like mystery, whatever." I said, "Mystery? That's pretty cool." I said, "What all can you listen to?" She said, "About anything you want to." And I was driving home one day, and I thought, if there's any Bigfoot podcasts out there. And oh shit, I Googled that. And then Cliff and Bobo popped up. I listened to that one. And then I heard a guy on there, reached out to him, got all this off my chest. And next thing I know, I'm helping him co-host a little bit. And it was so freeing. It was so, I felt so much better. Then I started meeting people that had crazy experiences, and some of the things they said, because I hadn't listened to all these stories. So I'm hearing these for the first time, and I'm going back to stuff that happened to me, and, you know, and it's very similar. So anyway, it's just kind of weird how it all happened. But I'm glad it did, because I've met some great people.
Yeah.
And I ain't gonna name any, because I'd leave somebody out and they'd be mad at me.
Wise decision. Yeah, that's easy to do nowadays,
Oh yeah.
for sure. Yeah, the thing is, you know, mine was way back. Mine was 1972 or 73, I
Wow.
guess. So two. And it was right before Legend of Boggy Creek come out shortly thereafter. And of course, as a youngin', you don't put two and two together,
Yeah.
especially when you're told that, you know, it was you were dreaming, go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And then, you know, 30 some, 40 some years later, you're told something else by the same person,
Yeah. Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, they are a sight. I didn't see a full body. I just saw basically from here up.
mhm.
What a sight. That's all I can say. In
It-
the window, less than 10
you-
foot away. So
I just
You-
got to hear the vocals really up close and personal in the dark, which is not something that I recommend.
I've heard the vocal, not as loud as you had being outside, but being inside and it outside, thank God. As a kid,
40
you know.
yards is
Don't
too
forget.
close.
yeah. And,
Way too
and
close.
and I can imagine, you know, what I heard that time, where that field was at. Depending on where it was at in the field, it could have been 600 or 800 yards. So I say about 700. And as loud as it was when it got to me, and I could still feel it. If I've been told, we went and investigated a place, farm, and the young man was hunting, and his friend he was teaching how to hunt, and they were walking out, they were leaving, and they're in a marshy area, and he said he heard something to his back behind him to the right. He thought something was trailing him out, and he said he never thought about Bigfoot, nothing like that. So he would stop, make a reason to stop, you know, talking to the guy, and it continue walking, and it would stop. Well, it got to a certain point, it got close to him, they still couldn't see it. He said, "Mr. Williams, when it screamed, this thing screamed. It was so loud." He said, "It hit me in the ear." He said, "I dropped my rifle and fell. It scared me so bad and hurt my ear." He said, "He fell down. I fell down in a fetal position." He said, "I hate to admit this, but I was covering my ears and I was just like, I was done. It hit me in the side of the head." He said, "I don't know how to explain that. It hit me." I said, "What about the other guy?" He said, "It hit him in the ear too, but he bent over and started projectile vomiting immediately."
yeah.
Now, have you ever seen anybody bust their eardrum or have something happen and they get, you know,
Yeah.
a sound, or I don't know, but we went and found, we were just talking about that tonight. We found a boneyard. We found fresh tracks. We found a lot of crazy stuff. I found a piece of animal. I don't even know what bone it was, but it was a pretty good sized bone. It didn't have any, it had been out there a while, and it didn't have any no rats or squirrels or anything that chewed on it. You know, it was intact, but it was sitting up on a dead log. It was sitting right in the middle, and I looked at this guy and looked him right in the eye. I said, "Are you?" I'll clean it up. I said, "Are you messing with us right now?" And the shock on his face, like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, Are you messing with us right now? Because if you are, I'm leaving right now." And he had no idea. And I looked at my son, and he looked down. He said, "Who put that there?" He said, "I don't." He said, "I don't know. Why would somebody put?" That's what we were thinking, right? I still don't know what it was, but I don't know what would have. There was no other bones around it at all. I don't know what it meant. I don't. It might not have meant anything. But I don't know how it got there. But then we started finding. We got down to the creek and we found 4 tracks, about 4.5 foot apart, probably, and they were curved, you know, left, right, and what I've come to see in certain tracks, and people that have shown me tracks in that were put in mud or around the creeks and stuff like that, how the toes cup for traction. And I feel like since they have a flexible foot, I've heard people say this. No, Greg will tell you that they flex the other way too.
Yeah.
for going up that sandy bank. He saw those tracks, and I'm thinking, well, if they've got a flexible foot, why wouldn't they be used for pretty much anything? If you cup it like this on the upside, that's for traction, And those tracks were just, looking at them, you're thinking, well, I don't see any toes, but you see, if you have an imagination, you can see where everything was cupped in like that, and the distance was the right distance. So anyway, like I said, I'm an accidental investigator, I guess. I run up on stuff and don't know what it means.
That's what happened. That's what happened to me. Every time I go somewhere, something seems to happen. I can't go camping in the woods, back country, without something.
Well, let me ask y'all, with the hunting, Jerry, do you hunt? You're muted.
You're muted, Jerry.
Yeah.
That's because I'm muted. Sorry. No, I used to, but I don't hunt anymore. Never experienced anything hunting.
Well, I used to, I started hunting when I was 8 with my dad, maybe 7.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got, now it's a different time now, but, I would go out in the woods 10, 11, 12 years old, and I had a stand or whatever. I'd go with a little $2 flashlight, hour before daylight.
Yep.
And
that's how I used to do it.
After I saw what I saw, I became pretty much a field hunter where I could see stuff coming at me. And, I still get in the woods, and I'm comfortable. I mean, when I get spooked, unless something happens, like that scream we had that night right up on us, I get more spooked thinking about it at home. Like, what are you doing? Why are you out there? What you can't see anything coming. You can hear it coming, but while I'm there, I'm pretty comfortable. But people like Heather said, "What are you going to do if you see another one and it's real close?" And I'm like, I'm not going to answer that because I don't know. Because it's bad enough when we've had screams, down in Hollins when me and her and we were walking the dog and everybody was back at camp eating, and that one screamed out. Superfly was up there in the corner, and his wife took off running, and the very first one was so loud, it basically it made me mad because I thought some idiots up here with a big speaker call blasting with all these people here, and I know they didn't ask anybody, that quick, like, who in the hell is that? And I look up there and I said, is that? And then I'm like, he's holding the phone. I'm like, and when I say, is that on his phone? That's in awe because that's a pretty badass phone if it's that loud, And but then I knew what it was. I just didn't know if somebody was call blasting, right? I mean, I'd heard it before, and it popped off. It was real close to him, just off the edge of the ridge there, not far. But when I say no, it's not, that's when the second one answered back. And then the third one is almost it was in like a triangle. The other one was like way across on another ridge somewhere. So we had one real close, one 150, 200 yards away, maybe. But it was off down the ridge. So, that sound is going to be not as loud, right? This one was more at our level. It was loud. And then this over here, and then the third one. Now, after we got up there, I've got 30 minutes of video. I've never really shown anybody. And I thought I saw some movement down in there, but I didn't. I had the camera or the phone going, and I've gone back and looked. I can't see anything. But it's getting dark. It's darker than it was the phone shows.
Yeah.
And so then we're talking, and the coyotes pop off, and it 4 coyotes that sound like 20 of them, in the right situation.
Oh yeah.
But as soon as the coyotes popped off and started, I'm like, that's coyote. That's clearly coyotes. That's nothing else but coyotes. But those other 3, where they were there was something big, and the howls that I caught, they barely could hear them. They were the same. And I've heard people that had audio that said, "Hey, we think this is a booger." It was the same. And anybody that gets out there and record, now these recorders this one recorder I got, it's pretty sensitive. If I'd had that one on, I didn't have it at the time. But these phones, I'm gonna say this. One thing that makes me suspicious of sound evidence, sometimes I'll get people send me stuff. Some people, big podcasts, are like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And I'm like, "Well, I can just give you my opinion. I don't know what it is or whatever." Some things I've helped them maybe identify that they weren't thinking a certain way. But when somebody's using their phone and the sound is too loud and too clear, I immediately, because I know how loud that thing was, and I know what it sounded like on my phone. And if you set a speaker up, and I know there's people that have done it, they set a speaker up, and they'll be close to them, and oh, look, I hear something. Well, a lot of times, I wish we could take some of this. I don't have any, don't know how to use it, audio equipment, and compare like something they may have taken from the internet or whatever, and see if it's the exact same signature or what, I don't know if they can do that. And I'm hope people will quit doing that. But if the sound is too clear on the phone, I automatically, raise an eyelid.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's funny. But
I'm waiting for him to doze off again.
But people ask me questions. They come, they tell me stories locally, and they're like, "No, don't use my name, don't anything." And I'll listen to them, and it's kind of an honor to be trusted. If there's people in this county, if they knew some of the people that have told me stories, and look, I've got I'm gonna say deputy sheriff, because there's a bunch of them, but he's in the sheriff's department, but he's kind of high up. He lives kind of close to me. He said he didn't care if I used his name, but I'm not going to do that to him. We were talking about arrowheads and stuff like that. He likes to go to the creeks and rivers and hunt whatever, right? So he said, "I hear you do a little Bigfooting or whatever." And I'm like, "Oh crap." I was like, yeah. And I told him where I saw mine at, and he said, "Well, what I was going to tell you," he said, "those ridges there, and then the ones across the interstate," he said, "you know where they're at?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "I've actually got a couple stories from that ridge close to that Mooresville Highway." He said, "Well, back late 90s, we had a 911 call from a lady, and she said a bear just stood up in the ditch and walked across the road in front of me and almost hit it." And they're like, "Oh crap, okay, we need to go." We don't have bears, but every now and then we have a straggler that comes through. It has happened. I was working at the sheriff's department, took a phone call in 1991. Guy left his house, the bear was in the kiddie pool out back. and they told me, yeah, we don't really tell a lot of people, but those people right in there, they see one about the same time every year. And we just, it never bothers anything. So he was about to go out there, and they got another phone call 30 seconds later. He said, guy said, "Hey, I know you ain't gonna believe this, but I don't care. I'm on Mooresville Highway at this point, just crossed the bridge going up the hill, and a Bigfoot just walked across in front of the car in front of me, going to the south, stepped over the fence, never touched it, and kept going over, whatever." And he said, "Are you still out there?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Can you meet me out there?" He said, "Yeah, I sure can." Well, he told him, he said, "Look, I'm from West Virginia. I'm here visiting some friends." He said, "I've seen bears. I've lived with bears. I've bear hunted. It wasn't a damn bear. It was a Bigfoot. He looked right at us. He had shoulders, muscles, and it was massive. And the strides it was taking, people, there's some things that rules out bears. We don't have bears here, but you can watch them on TV or on YouTube, and when they're standing up, the short little legs, they walk funny, right? Because they're not built really to walk like that. So if you're seeing strides like that, it's not a bear. I ran up on a bear in Gatlinburg one time. I was scouting a little creek river type thing because they let you fish for trout. I got me a 3-day pass, and they let them out on like Wednesday or Thursday for the weekend. And I was walking down through there, and the water was loud, and I was seeing the tails in the little pools there up and under the rocks. I'm like, okay, I'm fixing to go get me some stuff to go fishing. Heard a guy screaming and turned around. I didn't turn to my left, I turned to my right, and he's screaming something. What is he saying? About the third time I heard him, he said, "There's a bear down there." And I'm thinking, "Whoo, I'm glad I ain't down there." I wasn't.
Right.
And I turned around and looked, and there's a dumpster about 10 yards from me, and there's this bear taller than the tall. It's a kind of a tall dumpster, not the wide ones. And he's got his head up there, and he's shaking this dumpster. Well, he stood up. He was standing up. Well, going back in memory, if a bear is standing there, now y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I want you to, because I want to know if I'm right. If a bear is standing there and its front legs are dropped down, you're going to see the back of its paws, right? Is that right? If it's something with shoulders, you're going to see the sides of the hands if it's standing or dropped down.
Yeah.
Y'all think about you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if it don't have shoulders and its legs drop down, you're going to see the back of the paws facing you.
Yeah, correct.
If it's got shoulders and it's standing there and it's got wide shoulders, you're going to see the sides of the hands. So there's when people, like somebody that's experienced like that says, I know it wasn't a bear. Well, if you've been around pigs all your life and you see a goat and you say, well, that's a goat. Well, why do you think it was a goat? Well, it looked like a damn goat. Why you got to explain it, right? So, but I think people, what I've learned, we do know that people, when they're scared of things, a lot of times they laugh it off, and they'll have a nervous laugh, and it's just like when my world changed as a hunter, when I saw the first mountain lion and when I saw the first Bigfoot. When I haven't seen another one. There is a very big possible maybe, and I've been trying to explain it away for months now. It was at the beginning of this year, and the reason, I have a Bigfoot podcast. I go hunting big, whatever. But the more I try to talk it away, the more I make a good case of it being one, right? So, but because I didn't see it walking, I'm not gonna say for sure, but I do know it's in a research area of some really good researchers. And they had told me to, kind of keep my eye out there. So anyway, the people, and I think it goes with the government. People, why, if the government knows, why aren't they going to say anything? It's all money. I mean, if they tell everybody it's for real, there's a 6 to 1,200 pound 2-legged animal out there, and even though they might not eat everybody, there's mean animals. You can have 100 calves out of a group, and 2 of them might be meaner than hell. You know what I mean? And you don't know why. We raised chow dogs. Man, every one of them dogs were out of those litters all those years were great, but there was a small percentage of them was just batshit crazy. So stuff happens. But if they come out and say, yeah, they're definitely here, we've known they're here, whatever. So how many of these families, how many of these hunters, how many of these fishermen, how many of these people that visit national parks,
Right.
how many people, that buy the, $80,000 trucks and the whatever the boats cost now. How many of those people are going to quit going and doing all that because of that? And it goes back to the money, I would say. But I understand that, but also would, just like when I was telling people about the mountain lions, I said, I'm not trying to scare you. I just want you to be aware. Everyone I've ever walked up on, they didn't have little ones, mind you, but everyone I've ever walked up on, they've ran.
Yeah.
They've gone and they've hid. Now, that didn't mean I didn't have something ready. But most of the time, animals and they just won't be left alone. Wild animals, and they'll put space between you. So it's just like Kevin said. The guy that lives in this county that I know, him and his brother saw one up close when they were like 12 and 13. He said, I grew up tough. I didn't have anything. All I had was hunting and fishing. He said, I was safe out in the woods. I might not have been safe at home. He said, and the way I was figuring it, if he was there, he'd been there all along. And I wasn't letting that take that away from me. If he wanted me, he could have got me right then. He was close enough to take 2 steps and just walk off with me. So pretty good attitude. And his brother wasn't so that wasn't his attitude. I don't think I asked him about it later, and he kind of went. It was funny. It was funny. Wasn't funny, but yeah, they had 2 different reactions to it.
Wow.
But it was actually stealing a calf. And when they walked up on it, Kevin said when it did like that, like it's like it was almost irritated that they interrupted lunch, And he said, I saw the teeth. He was talking about the pock marks in the face. He was talking about the nose, the eyes, the hair. Talking about, he said it wasn't fur. He said it was hair. He said it had long, pretty hair. He said,
Yeah.
and up around here, and then he said in the face it was no hair, and he was talking about in the chest area was no hair, down a little bit down in the abdomen here, but then it was on the edges. Man, he gave some detail that was just unbelievable. But he took me to the spot, and then when he told me how quick it walked, he said didn't run, it walked across this field. He said it stepped over the fence. He said, and the fence gave me a good idea how tall it was, because he's country boy. He knows how tall these fences are. And then he, doubled that, and then another half, whatever. And I always was thinking the field was kind of a small field. When we got there, it was different. But I said, you saw it walk across this field? He said, yeah. I said, have they cleared this field? He said, no, they cleared the fence road. The field's always been clear. I said, you saw it walk from about right here all the way those woods over there? He said, yeah. And he said, it walked. He said, it wasn't running. He said, it was like his own skis, kind of. It was smooth.
Mhm.
He said, and it got across that field. He said, it looked back a couple of times to make sure,
Mhm.
He said, he didn't know why it looked back, but he said it looked back a couple of times. And I said, well, was it male or female? He said, oh, it's definitely male. I'm like, well, we won't get into that then.
Right.
But, but yeah, this stuff, it changes you. And I'm just so glad we've got ways of talking to each other. These shows are important,
It is.
because there's somebody in your chat, probably, I can't see chat, but you always got to realize there's probably somebody who's never heard me tell my story before. And there's probably somebody that wants to talk about it, but they don't have they're not comfortable yet. And the one thing is, when you can make them feel comfortable, and I always tell people, back when I was doing a lot of shows, I'm not asking you to come on my show. I'm just asking you to just talk about it to somebody, because it does make you feel better.
Yeah, nobody's going to put you down here. I mean,
No.
that's one thing I won't stand for.
Yep.
Everybody that has a story, we want to hear it. We're not doubting you any ways or means, but
Yeah. Well, Jerry, when you saw one, I saw one. Even though we know they're real, we're coming from a different angle. There's a lot of people out there. They're wanting to know, and they're wanting this evidence and all this. And there's a lot of evidence out there. But I like talking to people because I don't have to. There's no doubt with me, so I can ask questions a little differently, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. I know there's a lot of people that don't know, and sometimes now I'm not talking about any of our people. I'm talking about there's times when people ask questions. It sounds a little um, not accusing everybody of lying, but it's the way they ask the question. It makes you uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So I went from being self-conscious about saying anything about it to now, like, if somebody does attack a little bit because they're scared or whatever, uh I realize they're the ones that don't know. I mean, they're looking for answers.
Right.
And sometimes they're like, oh, I wished I could see one. I'm like, well, I had an easy encounter. I had it. I was naive enough. I was young enough. I didn't know enough about it. I did, thank God, I stayed and watched it walk all the way out of sight. Um, but I've talked to people that, you know, it changed them immensely, and they maybe had a hard time functioning, lost their job, really scary encounters, and a lot of them won't say anything um, because it has left a mark on them, you know.
That's true too. Yeah. Yep.
And I just feel like one of these days, uh, these shows, I call them back porch, type interactions, and which that's a good thing. I feel like if we had a lot more sweet tea and back porch conversations, psychiatrists might go out of business. Because sometimes, like when we're talking and we're telling something, maybe it's a bad experience we've had, there's something we've been through.
Mhm.
If we're sitting around on the porch talking about it, a lot of times the act of talking about it is you hearing it out loud. Sometimes you know the answers, sometimes you know what you need to do, but when sometimes if you listen to yourself, you'll give yourself your good advice,
Right.
but if you're not letting it out there, it's the same thing with this stuff. But anyway, I got a little deep there.
Yeah, but it's like when people, well, I'm not afraid to, excuse me, ask anybody.
Mhm.
I mean, I make sure the situation is proper. I don't put anybody on the spot when I'm talking about it. I'm not afraid to
Right.
talk about the subject to anybody,
Right.
whether you think I'm a lunatic or not, whatever.
Yeah.
But I always but I don't try to prove it the subject to them. I
Exactly.
tell them what I have seen, what I
Right.
have experienced,
Right.
and then you develop your own opinion, whatever you want to do.
Yep.
But I never force the subject on anybody.
Yep. And you got to be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
Last week I was at the doctor, and over in Pulaski in south end of Giles County, there's a lot of old stories, right?
Yeah.
I've got tons of things have been told to me uh, in the past couple of years, but and I know the areas. Well, there was a new receptionist, and I thought she looked familiar, and I couldn't place her, and she was the little girl that was working there. She was having her baby, so she's gonna be out for a while. There was a young girl that was younger than her. She was standing there with her arms crossed, and she was explaining to her, "This is the way we do it here." She was filling in, right? So when I came out, I was gonna get my doctor's note for work, and there are people just out of earshot in the next room, but there's an open doorway.
Yes.
There's nobody in the waiting room, and the receptionist looks up and she says, "Are you still doing your Bigfoot stuff?" And I kind of, did I? did I tell y'all about that? She's, no, I was filling in over close to your house over there at that doctor for a while, and I've got stickers, and I've subbed to your show, and me and my husband watch, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh, I said, I thought you looked familiar. So this girl that's been all business, she's got her arms crossed, and you talking about body language, right? She's standing there all professional, and she leans forward and she looked at me, and quietly she said, "You hunt for Bigfoot?" I'm like, well, I said, I saw one when I was 14, and it kind of led me down a path. And I've got a little show. I've been taking a break since his hip and all this stuff. And she started asking questions, Jerry. Really good questions. And I said, of course, we're at her work. And I look in the back and nobody's listening. But I'm like, you ever, anything weird happen? And she kind of glanced around. She said, well, she got a little quiet. She said, well, I've had a few things. But then she started asking these really good questions. And I said, do you watch these shows on TV about Bigfoot or YouTube? She said, no, they have shows about Bigfoot. So that was a piece of information I wanted for me. So she's not influenced by any of this, right?
Right.
She don't have any information. She's asking questions on her own. So I'm thinking, uh-oh. I said, I will tell you this. I said, you know where Tarpley Shop Road is? Her eyes got big. I said, just right down here. She said, she told me where she lives on another road that was just over the ridge there, And I said, very active area from the 40s all the way up to now. And there's no development hardly there in those areas either, But when I said that, her eyes got big, and y'all, she wanted to tell me stuff so bad. But what I'm gonna do. I was at her workplace. I figured this other girl would let her in on. I said, yeah, check out the channel, and I said, people that I mentioned, look in chat. There's other shows that come in. Go look at all this stuff, and hopefully next time we can be in a better spot to talk. And I may offer that. I may give her a number or whatever, but you got to be aware of your surroundings, like because she but when she leaned forward and got quiet and said, you hunt for Bigfoot? I thought, and it wasn't like a laughter or condescending type. It wasn't any of that. It was like she locked in. I'm like, uh-oh. We got something here. But yeah, I look forward maybe one of these days talking to her, because the area she lives in, maybe she's seen or heard something, and it might tie into this other ridge system over here, and kind of putting the pins on the map, so to speak. And this is what I'm liking. I've got I got reports from. I should be writing it down, but I haven't. Welcome back, Mr. T.
That's interesting.
I'm rejuvenated now.
I get a feeling sometimes when I talk to some people, I know they know something, they just won't say anything.
Yeah.
And I know where they live, I know their area, and they just won't say something, which is fine.
Yeah.
Again, we're not pushing the subject, but
Yeah.
Don't ever be afraid.
When they're comfortable, I always say, no matter what it is, when you try to convince people or you try to change a culture of a locker room, or coaches do it a different way, but I wrote for this little small town newspaper. It wasn't a big deal at all. I had a column weekly, and I told the guy, it was his hometown, little small hometown, and he said, I just want to change the attitude. We're also doom and gloom. And he said, we were fine, and then I don't know when it happened, and everybody's getting older, and none of the younger people care. And I said, listen, here's what you got to do. You don't come in with a sign and fireworks and get in their face and tell them this is what we're going to do. you say stuff in the truth, but you you work with the nostalgia for the older ones, and you get them interested, and then you can have,
Yeah.
get-togethers, and it's a slow process once you lose that. So I said, you got to make them think it's their idea. Did some Billy Schilling just sent me a message,
Hmm.
and he said there's a guy in chat from Tarpley Shot Road, the one I just mentioned. Did y'all see that?
Yeah, it's Rocky Toppin
Oh,
is his name.
okay. Well, so yeah, Rocky Toppin. I like that name. I sat and talked to a whole family. I think it might be, was it last year? And all day long at a cookout, and heard stories up on stories up on stories, how they had to change how they rabbit hunted and all this stuff. They said if they pulled up and they want to hunt a certain woods in one of the hollows, they would let their dogs out. If the dogs came back within 5 minutes with the tails tucked, they would load them up and go to a different spot. If they stayed in there, they knew it was okay, and they would go hunt. A lot of up close and personal um, interactions. One guy he said he was bow hunting, and he backed up into some cedars, and it was a perfect spot. He could catch them coming down that woods line,
Mm-hmm.
and there was sagegrass out in the field.
Yeah.
So you know what color that is. And then he said, I saw something dark. It was daylight, but he said, I saw something dark coming at me. It's coming right at me. And I thought, there ain't no bull supposed to be in this field. Well, automatically he tells you it's pretty daggone big. If he's
Right, of
thinking
course.
bull immediately, he said what it was. He said, once I realized what it was, I about peed my pants. And I didn't know what to do. And he was in them backed up in them cedars with just a bow. And he said he couldn't even say it, y'all. He couldn't even say to that whole family. He told me this after they left. He wouldn't tell it then. Even though they're all talking about Bigfoot, they called them the big monkeys because Bigfoot didn't come around till the late 50s, did it? The term. So in the 40s, this whole family called them the big monkeys, right? Everybody's gone. And he's so self-conscious. He's talking just to me. When he said, Roger, when we locked eyes, he couldn't even say Bigfoot. He tripped on the word. He got it out. He said it was a Bigfoot. I said, what happened? He said, he saw me. It stood. It was on all fours.
Mm-hmm.
Coming across the field. He said it was moving pretty fast. But he said it stood up. He said his eyes got wide. It stood up. He said it looked like it had a little reddish, something red right here on the cheeks. Because he said there wasn't any hair, but there was red, like something been put on there. He said it stood up and turned. I don't remember which way it turned, but it immediately dropped back down and exploded away from, getting away from him, getting stuff in between him. He said, I looked it right in the eye. It scared me to death. I said, you ain't told nobody? He said, I ain't telling nobody. He's a big former rodeo bronc rider, tough guy. He said he didn't want to be laughed at. He probably had to stomp somebody. That type guy, And I said, well, I appreciate you. I said, I appreciate you telling me. He said, if you ever use my name, I know where there's holes at. They won't never find you. I got the message. But, yeah, I mean, he said they were almost face to face. He said he froze. Once he realized what it was, he didn't know what to do. He couldn't go left or right or backwards because he was done pinned himself in, waiting on a deer to come by. And but he said, I thought it was a bull. And that was Rocky Top. That was Tarpley Shot Road area back
How
in.
close did it get to him, Roger? Do you?
He right on him. He said just a few feet. Just a few feet. He said he didn't know whether
run him over.
Yeah, he was coming in right there where he was at.
Yeah.
And he said I didn't know whether to move, I didn't know whether to yell out, I didn't know what to do. He said I froze. He said I've been hearing all these stories all this time. I've never seen one, I've never heard one that I knew of. I always thought it was BS. He said, but I froze. He's a big old, I mean, he's a big muscled up farming,
Huh.
big man. He said, I was scared. He said, I was scared to death. Didn't know what to do. He said, but it scared it too. When it realized that, it was there and they locked eyes, it's like it popped up and his eyes was big and it didn't know what to do at first. And then it went down on all fours again and he said, I said, fast, wasn't it? He said, yes. I said, well, I've never seen one do that, but I've had friends that have told me when they drop down and they've got that burst of speed,
Yeah.
I live there all my life. I hear things, but I've never seen anything. Or do you live south of there? Do you how close are you to Boone's Hill? But yeah, there's that road we was on yesterday. The reason we were on the road, there was I say young girl, maybe 30, had told me about seeing orbs with her daddy. 3 different color orbs for like an hour,
Yeah.
like dancing and carrying on. She said, if I seen it by myself, it's the same old story. If I'd seen it by myself, wouldn't have said nothing. But my daddy's sitting there and he's trying to make me feel better. Oh, they're probably doing some kind of light show over. But down in this hollow, they ain't nothing going to get down in there, And so I had been to that end of it, but I never had been all the way through. And supposedly it had been shut down for a while. And we went in on I'm going to say the south end of it, the end I'd never been to. And daggone, we turned in there. And y'all see the picture I posted in Woodwalkers of that cutout. We turned into that road and there's this cutout, which we knew what it was. I'm like, oh my God. I said, man, I'd love to stop here. And Heather's like, I know who lives there. The old lady that lives there. I said, well, we need to, when you see her, ask her if we can stop by one day. So I don't know, when that'll happen, but the more we drove through there, I talked to Don about it. And when I mentioned the road, a couple months ago, he said, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a creepy place. And when you have a tar and chip road so steep, you put it in 4-wheel drive and it's dry. I didn't want anything to bounce. See, I live off next to the airport. Grew up close to Boone's Hill. I know the area. Let's see. Can you send me an email and I'll give you some contact information? I'll talk to you one day. My email is squatchinholler@gmail.com.
Well, there's
And it's just, yeah. And I mean, and if you feel comfortable, you can come on and talk to these guys. Has he ever been on and talk to y'all?
That's the first time I've seen
time we've seen him.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to.
We're getting a lot of new
Absolutely.
people on.
Cool. And that's what happens, word of mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're only on 21 shows now because we don't do it every week.
Right.
Oh, we do.
We try, but
Try to.
well,
It's hard. It's hard to.
Especially with Jerry's schedule and
Okay.
how some of my weeks go. You never know.
All right. Well,
right.
wait a minute. Rocky Toppin, did you put a message in Woodwalkers under that picture that I posted? I think I'm putting 2 and 2 together here now. Yeah, just if you send me an email, I'll call. I'll give you my phone number and we can talk.
Roger, do you hear a lot of stories about quadrupedal, or is it mainly bipedal?
Well, most what I've heard is they're walking upright.
Yeah.
I heard one a couple weeks ago. There's a lady that's a little older than me. My son knows her son, and I don't know him. And they were talking to me, and it's from where I grew up. they were in the garage in probably the late 70s, early 80s. And they were playing ping pong. They had the garage door open, and they had cattle. Everybody around there had cattle back then. And she told her son that her friends were over and they heard a calf bawling. And they were like looking around like, what's going on? And they said just across the field, he said that she said there was a Bigfoot had a calf in one arm and carrying it across the field, and the calf was screaming its head off, and it just walked right out of sight with it. I've never heard that story before. I know about where they might be, but I want to get a location on that because I've got a friend that okay. You have friends. Okay, so I'm the friend that's going to tell you the truth all the time, but if we bull crapping, I'm going to make it funny if I can, right? All right. Then you got the guy in the middle. You got the guy over here. You can't believe a word he says, but he's funny. Then you got the one guy. He ain't going to say nothing because he don't want to look bad. The macho guy, right? He told us when he was about, God, I don't remember how old he was. He's about 3 or 4 years older than me. Well,
Sean's a local.
It's probably, hey, you probably could do that. And then she won't call you crazy, right?
Then y'all be crazy together, right?
That's right. That's
Sean's
awesome
our
feeling.
resident dog man experiencer.
Yeah. Yeah, we had him on 2 or 3 shows ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember 2 or 3 shows ago.
He's seen 3 different ones.
3
Three.
encounters. 3.
Dogman?
Yes.
Dogman?
Right here.
Well,
yeah. That's
if you'd asked me about that 2 years ago,
about an hour here.
I'd have been like, what are you talking about? But
yeah. Pretty popular
but,
now, huh?
But you can hear, like when I found the Bigfoot tracks at the LBL last Thanksgiving, in that video where I'm trying to document everything, and I'm running inside, but I ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean? I'm like, look, I gotta get this documented as good as I can and get the hell out of here. But if you watch it, I'm walking out there and I forgot about this. I'm like, are there wolves here? There was the biggest dog track I've ever seen, and it had a little thing off the back, but it wasn't sitting down. You know what I mean? Where it been back of the leg or something like that. It was part of the track. What? Oh my God! That unfortunately, every bit of that was true.
So work night, River. No.
Yeah. One night we'll have to do an infamous long show.
Oh, yeah. We've pushed the 4-hour mark.
We did that one night.
Yeah.
How much did you sleep? Yeah.
Oh, him?
I don't know.
He stayed awake. He actually stayed awake.
Yeah.
Pretty sure he did.
It depends on how crappy my day is.
Hey, is the milk barn close to your house?
Yeah, it is.
You need to set up in there one day and show people what it's like. I know what it's like. That's an interesting process.
Yeah,
but do you round yours up before daylight?
We have them all they're all on a lot, and we got a big barn that's full of bedding pack and free stalls.
Okay.
So we go out and right before daylight and push them all into the barn and start milking them, and they go back out and start eating.
Well, used to around here, I knew several families that
Some
did
people
that.
still do put them out on pasture and bring them in to milk them.
Yeah.
I remember one man, he's not with us anymore, but he did it the old school way, and there was paths, and you'd go, if you got up early morning hunting, going somewhere, you'd see Billy out there with his flashlight. And he'd be talking to them. They'd follow him right to the barn. But he had a pretty good walk.
Did he have to cross the road to get him to the barn? Because
No, he was lucky. Yeah, he was lucky. He had he's on the same side.
Yeah, it's nice having them in the barn especially in the wintertime, because that way you're not out there trying to find them.
Right. Yep. That's
But then when we're getting ready to dry cows up for Kevin, they'll go out in the pasture, the maternity area for a while.
What's funny is I never even thought to talk to Billy about this stuff, because he was out, early in the morning, not far at all from where I had seen that one, and a few people had crossed actually it was on the same farm, but it'd been split up since then that had the access under the interstate.
Yeah.
Didn't know to go look back then, of course. One of the guy that lived on the road, I told stories about him. He's never heard a human voice in his life, and he's one I told it to meet and greet LBL about one in a house, vacant house, and it was all dark, no power in it, and he heard the voices all around him, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, he's deaf, I said, how do you know what a voice sounds like? He said they were talking, and it was different voices. So anyway, that's another story, but that same guy, you bring up, he used to ride his bicycle. He's 3 years older than me probably, and that's why he got around. He would ride his bicycle to the store, long ways. Road was in pretty good shape. It was paved. He told me on the bus one morning, I think he came to I don't know. I can't remember if I got two stories mixed up, but he came to the house one night, and he asked my dad for a ride to his house, and we loaded him up. And thank you, sir. I'll be like Steve Austin, part 2. But I believe we gave him a ride, and he told me on the bus either the next morning or the Monday following. I was asking, he always had a notebook and he would write, but I knew a little bit. I could talk to him. He had his own sign language and the real stuff too, but a lot of times he was writing stuff down. And I'm like, I never got what was wrong. He was scared to death. And this was at the house where I saw the Bigfoot behind it. And I didn't put this together till years later. He said he was pushing his bicycle because he couldn't see. It was dark. So he didn't want off the road. So he was pushing his bicycle. He stayed out too late. He was worried about his mama getting mad and beating his ass when he got home, So he's pushing his bicycle. And I said, you were scared. I said, what'd you see? And he wrote down BEAR. And I'm like, I put a question mark. A bear? He said, yeah. He said when he got close, he said he was looking, he could see something. I got close and he did this. He said it stood up and he said teeth. He was showing teeth and growling and stuff like that. And he said bear. And I'm like, there's no bear here. And then that was before I had my sighting. Well, I forgot all about that. And then when we were talking about things that happened years ago, I'm like, oh crap, Michael said he saw a bear one night and it wasn't too far from there. I wonder, he dropped his bicycle and ran. And he ran to our house. So, if I ever see him again, I might try to bring that up and see and I don't know if he can give me details or whatever, but hell, I just passed that off as he was seeing things, right? I did the exact same thing that people done to me, but he said bear, but
Wow.
I just don't, nobody'd ever seen a bear around here at that time, but it could be, I don't know.
Man, how about that, huh? A little while ago, she was getting him ice cream.
Yeah,
that's good. Bedtime story. Wow,
man, I'm jealous.
How about that?
That's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, but back to the
Roger's
dog
got
man.
plenty to say.
That scares the crap out of you.
We've got
They've-
reports not far from here too, within like a few miles.
Are there any? Are there any like old military bases or anything close by?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
oh yeah.
We got Bainbridge just across the river. Go down through Port Deposit,
It's
climb the hill on the
naval
left.
training station.
Yeah,
It's been
Bainbridge.
used off and on since the 50s. Hadn't really been much use since
It's
then.
closed down. Been closed down now. Fenced.
Makes
They
you
used
wonder.
it for training for a little bit, but it was never like fully reopened. It was.
It's pretty big.
We
base.
also
I mean,
have-
it's huge, but it's big.
Do y'all
We've also
watch?
got- Edgewood Arsenal and
It's with Arsenal Aberdeen Proving Grounds,
There.
which.
Aberdeen's still active. Do they do anything on Edgewood, or is it?
Oh yeah. It's still active.
Yeah, I thought they were still doing
Yep.
stuff there.
You know what was odd? It adds to the stories. When we were at the LBL and we were all out there, had that big fire going and talking, and we were in different groups and moving around, and the black helicopter started coming over us.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
You know why
Yeah.
they needed to check on us, man. But if I was a pilot, if I was a helicopter pilot, I've seen pilots do some crazy stuff. That's probably not on the record that they did it. We lived on a hill one time, and the basement. I lived in the basement, and I was watching TV. And there was two huge glass doors, huge opening. I could see out over the trees, New Lake. I could see all the way to Bedford County, the hills over there. And I heard something one day, and I went walking out on the bottom porch. It was on the concrete slab, and then there was a big deck above me. I went walking out there, and there was a fighter jet coming almost at my level, and I was higher than the treetops that was off the hill there. This son of a gun was coming right at me, and it got so close, I saw the freaking pilots laughing at me. And they zoomed or where it buzzed our house. They turned up, and the house shook. And I thought, you can't go nowhere. You know what I mean? Them son of bitches was laughing at me. I could see them. That's close.
River's got a question for you there.
Oh, River. The thing about that is, I've seen stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I get inside, not here, thank God. Not in this house. Been here a while.
I've seen stuff in my yard.
I've seen stuff that, you get that feeling something's there, and you see that, and as you turn, it disappears or whatever.
Yeah.
I've never locked on to something and saw that it was, definitely something. But I tell you, there was at where I work now. I'd worked there before, and I was out on the dock. I was in shipping, and there was a older man and a younger lady. She worked receiving. We were shipping. We were out there by ourselves. Everybody else doing their own thing, and nobody else was out there. And I kept seeing this shadow. This, and I'd look. I would think Daryl was coming. I would turn, and wouldn't nothing be there. I didn't think anything about it. If it happens one or two times, you don't think anything about it. I didn't see that. Hold on. But I asked somebody one time, y'all. I don't know. I honestly, if it happened all the time, I would be crazy. I would have gone crazy. But it got so bad at one point. I actually prayed.
Yeah.
Prayed to God. I was like, I don't know what this is, and I know if it's something that you've given me, I have to deal with it. But if it's my choice, I don't want it. I don't want it. I want to hand it over to you. And can you take this off of me? Because I did see, and I think what got that started, talking about shadow people, I was in another house, and you know how when it's breaking daylight just barely and your blinds or just illuminating just a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
I rolled over and looked at the blinds, and there was a little girl standing there, and I couldn't see anything but the outline in the dark, right? And I forgot about that, but I did like a little kid. I turned over and covered my head up, started praying, you know, and then she wasn't there. And that's kind of, I think that's when I did it. I think that's when I was like, please take this off of me, whatever this is. It's weird because some things that happen used to scare me. Now I'm just not confused, but just like used to it a little bit, I guess. And it don't happen all the time. It don't. We were in a hotel out in Wyoming. It was an old hotel, just full of history, and they'd added on a new part. So Heather, we're standing in this long hallway, and then another long hallway. So we're right there in that corner, and we're looking at Native American clothing and other stuff, and reading the history. And Heather's, I can't see her, but she's down this other hallway, just a little ways. Well, I see somebody coming at us, and the way it moved, I thought, here comes a guy. So being the husband, being the man, yeah, I will. You're protective, so I made an excuse to turn to say something to her, so I could be facing this guy. I couldn't really see him that well. So as he was just about to come between us, I spin saying something to her, so she'll look at me, so she'll see him, right? If that makes sense. I didn't want anybody sneaking up on us. Well, as I'm turning and talking, and I say something to her, and she looks right at me, there's nothing there. There's nobody there. And I just kind of dropped my head a little bit. I'm like, she said, "What is it?" I said, "I'll tell you later." And if you consider that a shadow person or ghost or whatever,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Barry, so Michael, he used to work for a bunch of us, and he would come help me in the spring and in the fall, get my yard ready, and he would weed eat and do stuff. He's really good at doing it. He would help. He'd help people, and I think somebody was trying to sell a house that somebody passed away, and so they'd had him doing the yard. Well, Michael don't know about boundaries. And he'll just walk in the house, so it not an occupied house. He was telling me that he went in, the door was unlocked, there was no power, and he said that he was looking around, it was dark, and he was looking around, and he said he pointed his ear. I heard he did this at first. He did like the talking motion behind his head, above his head, over to the side, and all this. And I'm like, wait, what? So he got the pad out and he put, I heard voices. So that's a oh crap moment too, because I know Michael, at that time, he's probably in his late 40s. He's never heard a human voice in his life. I'm like, well, hold up. You heard voices? You heard voices, he said, in here. And my mind's blown, because I'm like, how does he know what a voice is? Right? So I started asking him questions, and I'm like, who was it? What do you think? And he put down ghosts. And I'm asking him these questions. I don't remember exactly what I asked him, but probably what are they saying or whatever. And I maybe like leave or whatever. I don't remember that part. I'm just blown away.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when I asked him, what did you do? And he's like, so he left. He left quickly. But that's the same guy that saw the bear back when we were younger. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about that. Barry, I don't know. I told that story at the LBL. I told that story and another one. Because that stuff like that, I know this guy. I know what he can't hear, But I mean, I've seen he can feel the percussion of something. You know what I mean? He can music or whatever, but he's not hearing he's not hearing the music, he feels it, or if a gun goes off or something like that. Or he was so funny, he would pull up, and the reason he would buy a new vehicle or new to him, and he'd pull up, and the two things he said, it's run strong. He said, and I can't hear it. He said if he could hear it, it wasn't any good. He could hear something vibrating or squealing or whatever, not something making a big loud noise, I guess, but with exhaust. But anyway, I don't know. It's been a lot of years in between some of this stuff. And I've asked people. I had some eerie happen one time. This lady walked up. I was working for the lottery, and I was at a little place down in Lincoln County, in a little country store. And this lady walked up to me, or walked by me, and I greet everybody. We had a store. I smile, and sometimes the people probably think it's creepy nowadays. They don't trust people, so I try not to do it as much. But I smile. How y'all doing? Whatever. And she was shopping in there, and she kept looking at me and grinning. Older lady. She kept looking at me and grinning, and she was smiling. I said, "What is it?" And she said, "You don't even know, do you?" I'm like, "Excuse me?" And she laughed. She said, "I can tell you don't know." And she left. And I'm like, I'm so stunned. I'm like, "What?" I asked the lady behind the counter. I was like, "What does she mean by that?" And she said, "Well, she's into chakras and strange stuff, and reading this and that." I'm like, "Oh crap. Okay. Well, maybe I'm glad I don't know." But I've had that intuition or the sixth sense save me a lot in my life. There's a certain feeling, and I mean, just when I say save me, like even from speeding tickets, or or maybe hitting a cow over the next rise. Something tells me slow down. I'm not saying. I just don't know, y'all. I mean, I don't. I'm scared to explore it in a way. I mean, I don't really. I appreciate the times that it's helped me out, but I mean, it could have ended yesterday, right? I don't know what it is, but until this next thing happens, I assume I've seen some weird stuff. I've had some weird stuff happen to me that I can't explain. Probably the weirdest thing that happened was in Gatlinburg, and Reagan Resorts Inn, room 110. Laying there awake, I worked night shift at the time, and so it was after 3 o'clock, and I was up, I was awake, I was thinking about me and my daughter. She was going to ride with me back home. And I was thinking about what route we were going to take, and I have the cover, my my toes are up, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, if I get up about 5 o'clock and take a shower, and then she gets up, whatever, and then something grabs me felt like a thumb and that finger on the big toe, and snatches my left leg out to the left.
Ooh.
So violently that now my feet are under the cover too, but I felt that pressure that felt like those two fingers right there. And of course I come up ready to fight, scared to death, thinking somebody done picked the lock and come in on us. Light comes on. I grab the nearest weapon, and thinking, here we are. Light comes on, there's nobody there, absolutely nobody. So now the beds, there's you look in the beds, you pretty much know you can't go under the bed, but you go in the bathroom, check the locks, check everything, go out on the balcony, and the door's locked, but you make sure that it's locked. And this is the hotel room, small room. My daughter wakes up, "Daddy, what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm getting up early, we're about to leave." I said, "Go take a shower." I have no idea what that was. But I wasn't asleep. I was not asleep. That's the only time that I can recall that I had physical, something physical happen. But yeah. And y'all, I've said this before. When I first started talking on these shows, No, when I first started talking on these shows, I'd get to telling a story that I hadn't got to tell before, and sometimes you just don't remember them. I mean, a lot of times,
Yeah.
Jeffrey could be talking and it'll trigger a memory, um, or anybody
People
else
do
could
that
be.
to me all the time, and I'll forget about something until they
Yeah,
bring it up.
Yeah, it's normal. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just it's been some weird stuff. I mean, I don't know, but at work, on the dock talking about the shadow people, I finally asked somebody, have y'all ever see any ghost in here? Or you ever? And well, we had a worker, 15 years ago that died out there. He had a heart attack. He didn't nothing. It wasn't an accident. He just had. I said, whereabouts was it? Because I'm not, I don't like to lead people and give them ideas where to say, well, I've been
Right.
seeing something right here. Where did it happen? Oh, it happened right here. I'm not. About where did he die at? Well, between this door and then, oh crap. Okay. And then it'd be more like I mowed cemeteries in high school in the summer. Big one here in Lewisburg, or there in Lewisburg. Felt real creepy, creeped out about it at first, and then I got just something. The way I dealt with it was like, okay, Mrs. Smith, I'm here to take care, make it look good for you. And I got in a habit. I don't know why. Every time I walked over somebody's grave before I did, hey, Mr. Jones, I'm here to make your spot look good or whatever. Hope you don't mind. And that's something I did to make me feel better,
Right.
But I did find a peace doing that. And then I got to thinking, I wasn't talking out loud because I probably would have been crazy, but doing that. But I got to thinking, some of these from the 1800s and early 1900s, people may not have even thought of their name in 100 years. So it felt good to kind of give them an acknowledgement, like I'm here to make your spot look better. But yeah, I'm all over the place, y'all. I mean, it's just I don't know. Which one? We've had a few things. Now that spot that we had the rock thrown in 2020, I didn't smell anything right then, but I was sitting there one morning, not too long after that, and I was sitting in a fold out chair in a dried out drainage ditch creek, type thing. And I had a breeze hitting me in the back of the head, a light breeze hit me right in the back of the head. Now, if I don't know, so Peyton would have been up the hill to my right, way up there in a stand, and I was down in a spot where it was safe to hunt, and we knew which way not to shoot. Well, I say this, I'm slow sometimes, and I sat there for a while, and all of a sudden I smelled this. At first, I thought it was something dead, but it smelled like the mixture between a wet dog and some kind of decay. Uh,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Not really. The death is. There's different types of whether it's fresh or been there a while, depending on the stage of decomposing. But this wasn't that, but I thought it was at first. I'm like, dang, gummit, I'm gonna sit down here where something died, and I'm gonna have to move. Well, I smelt it for 3 seconds, maybe 2 to 3 seconds, and I didn't smell it anymore. And I'm like, dang, that's weird. Did the wind change? But I've got this short hair, and it's hitting me right on the back of the neck, and it never stopped. And all of a sudden, I realized, oh shit, that's something moving. And I got on the radio right quick, and I'm like, Peyton, head on a swivel. We got something coming in between me and you. It's up on my right side. It's fixing to come to. It's coming towards your stand. He never smelled anything. He has smelled stuff, and at that location we'll go check it out. Most time it's something small, or there's coyotes everywhere. There's bobcats. I remember one time we walked up and one of the cows had died. I don't remember what had happened to it. But his uncle had drug it to a certain spot. We stayed away from that, but this is different. I don't know how to explain it any better, but and I've only smelt that one time. Now I have smelled y'all. I've never really smelled a bear, but what I would imagine a big animal in the summertime with a lot of fur would
Mhm.
smell like.
Yeah.
Like a little bit of musky, a little bit of sweat, a little bit of urine, animalish. I smelled that one time. Still don't know what that was, but I haven't. That's just a few times. And now I can. Y'all know you get a buck. You can smell a buck. Rutting buck. You smells a little different.
A male goat is one of the
Goat,
worst
a
things
daggum
you'll
goat,
ever
a
smell.
goat. But if you get something that gets wet, it's gonna have
Yeah.
that smell. But that little bit of decay mixed with it confused me.
I've had that
Usually,
right out here one night.
Mm-hmm.
and it's different. Now that I've smelled it one time, it's just like the screams I heard. Now that I've heard those, the third time I heard them years later, I knew exactly what it was. Immediately, I just thought somebody was call blasting. But and I think Bama explained it perfect. You get a memory bank. You get a in your brain. I think he was talking about sounds, but it's sounds, smells,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And and even sights, once you learn what certain things are, or whatever, it's in there, and you can recall it pretty quick. But that's the first time I'd ever smelled that combination.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, could it been a coyote, close, thick haired coyote that had gotten wet and had funk on him? Yeah, I guess it could, because they stink anyway. But I know what a coyote smells like. And you know you off a coyote, and that's a nasty smelling son of a gun.
Yeah.
I smell
But
so many weird, nasty things around here being on the farm.
yeah,
It could be masking the odor,
yeah, 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 yep. And so my favorite 3 words doing this, and when people ask me, is I don't know, because
Yeah.
if I don't know, I'm not gonna,
Right.
Yeah.
and it's but what I like though is, like, there was a lady, my aunt called me. Roger, you need to talk to Miss So and So. She lived over on Blue Creek, which is not far from here, back in the '70s, and she had some weird encounters. And Keith, you remember Keith? And he's younger than me. He passed away a couple years ago. I said, yeah, I remember Keith. So he said he saw a Bigfoot walked up behind her house. They was visiting over there one day, and he swore and I'm like, oh God, I got to call her. So I called her, and I said, you remember me? She said, yeah. She said, do you remember me? I'm like, well, I know whose mom you are. She said, no, I used to keep you as a kid. I'm like, oh, are you the one that made the hamburger meat, loose meat hamburger meat with the mustard and onions? She said, yeah, you remember that? You was 3 years old. I said, that's my favorite dish ever. But she said, I made that because I could feed more of y'all. But anyway, so we got to talking, and they had some things happen, and Keith had seen the Bigfoot, and he swore up and down all his life, and I didn't know this, that he had seen one real close there, close to the house. Well, she said she was at home. She worked as she was a security guard at a hospital. So she said, Roger, I know what death smells like. I know what rot smells like. I know what, she said, there was had the windows open one night, and she said they were these tall old country house, so tall windows, big windows, and she said I had some sheer curtains, and she said we've been hearing strange stuff, some screams and different sounds that didn't sound like anything they'd ever heard before. She was home by herself, and she was standing in that room, and she said all of a sudden this smell hit me that I didn't recognize. And I said, hold on a second. I said, let me explain to you what I smelt before, and I've heard other people, and see if this hits close. I did the wet dog with the decay and all that. She said, that's perfect. That's exactly it. She said, when it came in the room, it was all in the room, and it was something very close. And she's like, in my mind, it had to be big to be that stinky. And she closed the windows and called her husband. He said, I'm on the way home. And then she told me a neighbor, well-respected neighbor in the community, was coming up the road one day, said he was looked over at the right side of the road, and he thought a cow was over there just across the fence. And he's like, hell, I ain't got no cows over there. And one done got out, And he said, dang it. And he slowed down on that gravel road and said, this thing was hunkered over. He said, it stood up. And this is not far from here as a crow flies. Said it stood up. Said it was massive. He said, had both windows down in the truck, no air conditioner, probably old farm truck. He said, I started slowing down, and it turned and looked at me. He said, it was a damn Bigfoot. And y'all may think I'm crazy, but that thing stunk to high heaven. The wind was coming right through the cab, and I was looking right at it, and it just turned and walked off. He said, that's one of the biggest things I've ever seen. He said, y'all might laugh at me, but I don't care. Hearing stuff like that, I never would have heard that if my aunt hadn't known we were doing this. That story would have disappeared, I enjoy hearing stuff like that, because that guy that saw it, he's been passed away he was an old man when she was young, so she's in her mid-70s now. But this is the dots on the map that are starting to get really jumbled up. But what happened is, like, I think my aunt was like, hey, you need to listen to this. This is my nephew Roger, and he talks about Bigfoot on the internet. Something like that, and then she listens, and then I said, ma'am, would you be opposed for me coming to your house and setting up a phone camera? She said, oh no, I'm not as pretty as I used to be. And I said, I don't care.
Yeah.
We'll get a shot collar. He might like it.
Keep him awake.
Yeah. You ever fall asleep milking?
Occasionally, but
go lay up in the feed bin.
There's a pole in the middle of the parlor that it's pretty comfortable if you gotta lean against something.
Take and strap yourself to it so you won't fall. That's hard.
It's rough sometimes.
That's hard work.
We keep weird hours.
Well, I asked the old farmer one time. He milked cows. He did all kind of stuff. I said, Mr. Tommy, I was at the store. I was working behind the counter, and the time change came up. Cool. And the guys at milk never changed their time. They just keep on the same schedule. Yeah. And I said, Mr. Tommy, I don't know why I asked him this. I said, what hours do you work? He said, from can to can't.
Right.
That's a good answer.
We don't have cans, fortunately.
But they you liable to see them. And I'm gonna tell you, old men like that have saved life. Like there's some stuff that people don't know. Y'all been this is off the subject, but I'll make it quick. My uncle pulled up one time, and there were some young men. Their tree had blown over, and there was a big root ball, and a couple of them were standing off in the pit, and there was a guy over the chainsaw about to cut the top loose from the root ball, and he slid to stop, started blowing the horn, and they all looked, and he was screaming, get out of there, get out of there. Why? So as soon as he cuts that loose, that thing's fixing to stand back up, and it's going to crush y'all. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they got out there, and they cut it loose, and once it got cut loose from it, that thing stood back up and filled that hole back in. It'd have killed them. But if a farmer tells you something, listen to him. That's the moral of that story.
That's right.
But yeah, it's I mean, and there's like I started to tell before, I've gotten in the middle of stories and telling, about the one UFO I saw and all that stuff. And then when I first started doing this, I'd be like, Roger, In my head, I'll be, Roger, you need to shut up. People gonna think you batshit crazy. Hey, um,
I fell asleep in a deer stand, woke up after dark. So,
I walked right under you.
yeah.
He's
And no, he
probably standing out there
probably reached
staring
up there and propped him back up so he wouldn't fall
Yeah,
out.
right. Wow.
Probably why I woke up. He probably walked under there and slapped the rung while I was.
Yeah. Well, you talk about stuff that happened that you never thought about. I remember one time there was 17 deer, and this is close to where I saw the Bigfoot, and this is about the right time. But and I knew there was a very big buck back there, and it was hard to get to. And I lugged it. I didn't have a 4-wheeler. I made this stand. I welded it out of old bleacher stuff. Put wheels on the bottom of it.
Like that.
Put wheels on the bottom of it, and I lugged this thing in. I pulled it in. It was horrible. There were 17 deer come under my stand one morning. Went across this little field, little sage grass, and my legs started falling asleep. And I was waiting for the last one to jump over that fence, and she did. I'm like, oh God, thank God. And I'm assuming there's nothing else around me. And I scooped my leg, and something's back here behind me. I always assumed it was the big buck. Ran off, and it was so fast, it only had to go like 15, 20 yards to get in the thick stuff. But it scared me, and I turned to look, but it was already in the saplings and stuff had already, Now, I didn't hear any clicking or antlers or whatever. Now, there's a 99.9% chance it was the big buck. But now after we talk about this stuff, I'm like, what if it wasn't? What if it was something trailing those deer? Because that was about 2 years after I saw, maybe 3 years after I saw that one. And I was still going out there, but I wasn't going out there before daylight. Question, have you seen oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's the weird part. Me and Peyton have seen strange lights. No reason for them to be where they're at. Go in the daytime, and somebody walking through there in the dark with a cell phone would be suicidal. There's 30-foot, 20-foot, 15-foot crevices, rock formation. An old well over there. There's no way to walk through there in the daylight. Orb, the pulsating orb, definitely was not a light source that we know. I mean, the way I didn't get into that. That definitely was an orb. The best one I ever saw was on the train tracks at Chapel Hill, the Chapel Hill Light. Y'all can Google that for a good ghost story. Went up there, scared to death. Didn't see it the first time. Went back the second time, and I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared because we didn't see it the first time, so it ain't real. The damn second time we went up there, I saw it. I can tell that sometime it's pretty detailed. It was bigger, a little bit bigger than a beach ball. It was electric. I've seen transformers blow up, and that ball that comes out and blows up. That's what it looked like. So
I was sitting on the back of a pickup and one of them blew up one time.
Yeah. Did it blind you where you couldn't see anything, but everything was white?
All damn near couldn't. I almost fell off a truck when it happened.
Yeah. That's the only reason I knew that happened to us too. I've seen that twice. I was too close twice.
I was underneath it when it blew.
I was at a friend's store one time, and they had a old store, had brass on the front of the front door, the enter and exit, whatever, where you push and pull.
I think I remember you telling this story before.
Yeah, and I had my hands on it, and this storm was coming up this summer. It was coming up by 3:00 every day, and we're like, here comes the 3:00 storm, and making fun of it. And I didn't know it, but there was a transformer just a few feet away from me on the outside, up on the pole there. And the reason I knew what this was, I've had experience with it before, but I'm holding on to this door, and this guy standing there, he's holding on to the other side, and we're looking at it, man, that looks pretty rough. And all of a sudden, the hair on my arm stood up. and my hair stood up all over my body, and I looked down at it like, and then I realized, and I said, "Oh shit!" And I grabbed him and I pulled him off the door and got us away from the door. And then this lightning hit this transformer, shit blows up, and then after it's all over with, I'm like, "Daggone!" I'm thinking in my mind, I'm glad I recognized that before it happened. I don't know whether it would have run in on us or not. But then the people in the store are looking at me like, "How'd you know that lightning was fixing to strike?" I'm like, y'all didn't feel it? I didn't
You
know.
won't believe this, but
Yeah. And I had been unfortunate enough to being too close to lightning strike, and that had happened to me. All my hair stood up, and so it hit me at the last second. I'm slow.
Yeah.
It takes me a while to get there, but
right.
but I have had the feelings
Farm where it
too.
hit the lightning rods and the cows all jumped.
Kumba, man, that was so daggum funny.
I watched every minute of that show right along with you.
Y'all know that show wasn't supposed to happen? What happened was Bud and Angie were scheduled and they got sick. I don't know if it was COVID. It was something pretty rough. And I'm like, oh crap. Okay. So I texted Greg. I said, I don't think there's gonna be a show tonight. And I just went and took a nap. I woke up and he'd been blowing my phone up. Hey, I got Kumba. It was like 30 minutes before showtime. I'm like, oh crap. So I'm gathering everything up. Had no idea what I was going to talk about. And it ended up being, it took me 2 days to get over it. It was so much fun. And if y'all remember at the 2 hour mark, I was trying to get off of there.
Yeah.
Y'all.
I remember.
And I'm like, and I thought, you know what? Let them go. Let them roll. I might not ever have this group together again. Let them. And I said, I'm gonna hang in here as long as they'll. And Kubo said he went to pee, get something to eat, and come back, and got roped into 3 more hours.
Yeah.
But it was fun, and I need to watch it again. Actually,
hey, if he had shot that computer monitor, it would have been the greatest thing.
Oh my goodness!
I was dodging. I was like what the crap? Anytime you look down the barrel of a gun, it ain't fun,
He's like, I need to put some oil on it.
But I realized how dumb it looked. That's when I went in and said it. If y'all noticed me dodging, and Greg said me too.
I was doing the same thing while I was watching it.
Oh man, I need to go back, and I never hardly ever go back and watch one because I can hardly stand.
Even watch our shows.
I can't. I know Miss Catherine will get on to me and some other people, but my voice on recording, I can't hardly listen to it.
I can't either. I can't do that to myself.
And I think we I don't know. We got an idea of what we sound like, maybe because we hear it inside our head. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway.
When you get back and listen to yourself, you're like, God, it sound terrible.
Yeah. And I'm like, what did I just say? I told Miss Catherine at the LBL, she was talking about they drove down from Ohio and we were talking about, I said, yeah, I'm a little self-conscious. I sound like a butterbean and a hay bale had a baby. She said, don't you be self-conscious. And I love accents. But being at that store for almost 30 years, 65 coming, I had people moved in here from Ohio, Michigan, everywhere. And so I got to where I really don't hear them unless it's real thick from, I had trouble with rivers at first, but then after, that's the way it happens. After you listen for a little bit, you're fine. There was a guy from England. Hell, me and him didn't know what each other was telling each other for 2 weeks. We're like, huh? Excuse me? I will, River. So, but if it's Boston, I hear it.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
I had my friends come down, and of course, after a while, they pick up some of our stuff. But one of my really good friends, he was born in Texas. He lived there 8 years. Then he went to Detroit. Then he moved down here. He was there each place for 8 years. And one day we were riding down the road and he said something. And I turned to look at him. I said, "What the hell did you just say?" He said, "I don't know." He had Texas, Detroit, and Tennessee all mixed together. I said, "Man, that was freaking awesome." He said, "Can you do that again?" He said, "Probably not." But
It's like them boys we hunt with up in Maine, everything bars. You don't know if we're talking about going after a bear, if we're talking about going to the bar. We
Going to
don't
the
know.
bar. Going to shoot a bar today. How to shoot a bar.
y'all know the story about Davy Crockett where he wrote on the tree, "I killed a bar on this tree." It was CILED, killed a bar,
Yeah.
BAR. Well, my daddy, he's dead and gone now, and I never told him I did this, but we had people coming, a lot of people from up north, right? And I really took this seriously. Tennessee's only about 100 miles north to south, and I figured, well, they might be their only time they stop, so I want to make a good impression, Unless I had an opportunity to be funny, then I would just, go that way. But he used to get mad, and people would write on the stalls in the bathroom, and he'd be cussing, being there with paint and doing stuff. And one day, I was thinking, oh, this will be funny. I killed a bar on this door and put D. Crockett. He said, "What stupid son of a-" he got to laughing and he left it. That's the only one he ever left, and I never told him I did it. And people would come out and say, "I don't know who put that on there, but that's pretty funny." Which that's I had a guy one time. I used to love to act dumb. I had a guy. It was a legitimate 15-degree day, and we probably had a 15-mile-an-hour north wind, and it was hitting the front of our store, and this guy pulled up at Wisconsin plates. He had his Green Bay park, big old coat on, and he had his gloves, and he's trying to pump his gas. And y'all, it was cold. It was a wet cold, and the wind was blowing through there. And he was trying to get that gas pump, hiding behind the pump. And he walked in. And he stomped his feet a little bit, habit probably. Wasn't no snow out there, but he's like, "Geez, is it always this cold down here?" I said, "No, just during the winter." And he said, "I stepped right into that one, didn't I?" I said, "Yes, sir." But we had so much funny stuff happen there. But, as far as, I don't know, I get off subject, but I really wished I had that store again, or we had it, because I would be all in, like, "Hey, where you from?" "Oh, yeah, I heard about the Falk Monster. You ever know anything about that?" Whatever, and see their tags, and man, you could get some stories.
Roger could start his own Monster Mart.
Yeah.
You know what? If I had money, I'd live 5 miles from interstate. Yeah, who did that? I saw that. I didn't know anybody could do that. Do the like a TikTok almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep seeing that. I don't know what the.
Somebody's doing it probably. And I saw a like.
Okay.
Somebody liked something. Let me check my burn here and see if it's still there. Get close to fire. Well, I'm glad that it wasn't funny when it was happening, but going back and thinking about it, everything happened just like that too. I mean, the reason I kicked that jug on fire, I was worried about my butt. I wasn't worried about my car, but I knew if it ever got under that car, and it got where he couldn't get out, he's in trouble. It was a 2-door car, and but my other buddy knew. He's my best friend. He'd seen one explode one time, and he was getting out of there. But
Whew.
It was rough.
Must have been a short story, Catherine.
No,
She's back on.
No.
Well, that's a long story. I've heard that story.
yeah, that was that was
no. I'm responding to Catherine.
Oh, which,
She's back. She's back in the chat.
Oh,
But it must have been a short story.
probably knocked him out. She came back.
Yeah.
Has there been
man.
anything recent, Roger, that around you that you know about, or has it been?
The only thing recent now with us, I found a maybe trackway.
Yeah.
And it was after Dozier come in and moved some stuff around. and it's all rock up in there. So I knew if we was ever going to find any tracks in this spot that that was our chance, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not a definite, but everything lines up, and it's in this right spot. But there was three tracks, and
Yeah, I happened to cross some by accident up in the mountains this year while we were trout fishing.
We haven't been, of course, with this hip. We haven't been out as much because even just sitting in the truck, you know, it gets I can shift around a little bit, and I hate it too, y'all. It's not. I hate it for me because it's fun, but I also hate it for people that like stuff like that because I enjoy maybe making a 30-minute video of nothing, just without talking and carrying them places and letting people get to see, you know, some of the stuff we're talking about. It's like Greg, we've all heard the story of him when he saw that first one go across the road. But when you go there and you actually see it, I was in his truck and I was so in awe of the story and getting to see the spot that I had the phone. I didn't record a second of it. I'm like, dadgummit, because you know he was really detailed and where it where it jumped from off the road. There, I don't know if any athletes, any humans could have done that, much less something that's 600 or 800 pounds off of 1 foot too, because it was so far off the road and you had the incline. He said when it jumped, it landed in the middle of the road, and then there was now they had cleared the pine trees, they'd cut those, but the pole and the guide bar was still there. So and one of the small saplings was there. So he had a reference point to show me at the angle. He said when he come over that little rise, it acted like it didn't know what to do. It didn't know whether to stay on the same side of the road and then it just jumped out in the road. And but I don't know why I failed everybody on that one. I should have. I said, man, could I record? Oh yeah. I said, well, we need to do it sometime. Show everybody. But yeah, I enjoyed doing that for everybody. River. I don't have like. I have vivid dreams. I dream in color. Sometimes I know I'm dreaming. Years ago, I got to work. Sometimes could control one a little bit. My thing when I was young, when I'd have a nightmare, and I realized I was dreaming, and it'd be some kind of monster, where it was a Godzilla or some stupid crap in a movie we'd watch. My thing was to make friends with the monster. Like, man, I know where you can get some people. They're down there. You know what I mean? Like, hey, dude. Right. But then I'd wake up. But River, I haven't. That's a good question. I haven't had a dream where I saw faces or them, but I've had dreams where I felt like I felt at times, if that makes sense, and know that something's not right or whatever. That usually don't last long, but sometimes I'll have a dream like that, and even if I wake up and go to the restroom and come out and go to sleep, it does. I don't say it picks up where it left off, but that same feeling, it's weird. I don't know whether it's something to do with the moon or something that's going on, or maybe something I watched, or maybe some thinking I was doing before I went to sleep. Usually, I'm not doing this anymore because I'm eating different because of my sugar, but people used to laugh. But if I ever ate pizza before I went to bed, I have some vivid, strange, and not always horrible or horrifying, crazy, vivid. It could be anything, but it's out there. You know what I mean? And pizza, I don't know if it's the spices in it or what would do me like that.
I have weird dreams after I ate Italian subs. I don't know what the hell that's about.
It's the marinara sauce. It's the marinara. That's what it is. We're getting it locked down now.
Sometimes it's pizza, sometimes it's Italian sub. I don't know.
No red sauce after 6:30.
River said he sent you the picture of his dreams.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. That was awesome. Yeah. If it's the same one. Now, I don't know. I don't know if when I'm dreaming, it's vivid. You ever get into? I had a friend told me one time. He's an old guy. He's gone now. He said, if you ever want to know if you're dreaming, um, look at a clock or try to work a calculator. Look at a watch. Look at it and look back. And since I ran a restaurant for so many years, sometimes I'll be waiting on a customer and can't get the total to come up. I can't, you know what I mean? And it frustrates the crap out of me. That's stupid. That don't happen as much as it used to, but it's now if you're talking about dreams, I'll make this quick. I was having yeah, man, I'm sorry. I imagine some of the stuff you said, I'd be awake too. um,
Hey Roger, if you ever see something crazy, just do a video chat with him and watch what goes on in the background.
Oh, I know. Greg's told me.
He's got curtains standing up, Billy Shilling seeing apparitions and stuff.
I'd be scared. I would log off immediately. Have y'all ever had deja vu where you think something happened? And
Yes.
Well,
yes.
I used to have it, second, half a second, a couple seconds would be a long one, and I'll make this quick, but I was dreaming. I was in my uncle's bathroom, which I never visited the bathroom, the bathroom or the house. My cousin, she was standing beside me. I'm looking in the mirror with a pink razor, and there's this look on my face of terror, and her too. And I wake up. Some stuff happened, and I wake up, and immediately I'm like, "What in the world? What circumstance would put me in my uncle's bathroom shaving with a pink razor?" That was so vivid. It was weird, and I'm sitting there thinking about it and what had happened. Well, I don't know. Not too much longer. Ow. Maybe within the month, I was working at the sheriff's department, and I'll tell you when it was. I don't know the date, but I can tell you the date. It was the weekend that Mike Tyson fought Buster Douglas. So we can go back and look. And so it was probably on that Friday, okay? And I think they fought on Saturday night or whatever. But I could tell you how old I was by that. But I was working at the jail, and you had to be clean shaven. And I did the 12-hour shifts, and my mom and dad and aunt and uncle went on a trip. And I was kind of put in charge of keeping an eye on everybody, and when I wasn't working, I was staying there. My sister was there, and it was us. It was four of us, and he gave us permission to watch the fight and everything. He said, "I'll pay for that, whatever." So they were out of the country, and my mom was scared to death of flying. She took out this insurance, said, "If anything happens to us, this is what I want you to do," and scared the crap out of us. Well, so I pack everything up, and I'm over there, and I work the 2 on, 2 off, whatever, 3 work the weekend. Well, I'm getting ready for work, and I don't have a razor, shaving cream, or nothing. I'm like, crap. I'm like, hey, my older cousin, I'm like, hey, does your daddy have any razors in here, new razors or anything? I said, I need to borrow one. So I don't know if he's got any. He said, I got this one here, and it was a pink one, brand new. And here we are, we're talking, and I'm lathering up, and I start to shout. I look up, and I'm like, oh shit. There it is, the scene. There it is. Everything's exactly the same.
Yep.
And I'm like, this look on my face, the weird look on my face is like me recognizing that, which is weird. So I know nobody's going to believe me. So I turned to her. Thank goodness. I said, listen, Mikey and Rachel are going to come out of the back bedroom. They're going to be arguing. She's going to say this. He's going to say this. She's going to say this. He's going to say this. They're going to go through that door, and they're going to accidentally knock something off on the kitchen table, and it's going to vibrate the house. It's big, like a book or something. And she looked at me like, have you gone nuts? Is what she's looking at me. The door opens. They say exactly word for word, what I told her they were going to say. They walk up the hall arguing, and she's like white as a ghost. Listening to them, they open the door to the kitchen, and one of them bumps into something, and something hits the floor and vibrates the house. And she turns and looks at me. She said, "How did you know that?" I was like, "I don't know. I'm panicking. I don't know. I dreamed it. And her hearing it, and then we tell them, they don't know to believe it, but I got one person that knows, right? But the immediate fear is that my mom and dad and her mom and dad are in the air at the time on the way back, and we can't contact them. So I'm thinking something bad might have happened or whatever, because I asked. You never asked. What circumstance would put me in my uncle's bathroom shaving with a pink razor? Well, I found out pretty quick. And I remember wondering things before that's, I've been shown that it wasn't good, like that fire that happened. That was crazy. But I had wondered something before, like you hear people or see people with burns, and man, I wonder what that feels like. Well, I don't wonder nothing anymore. I don't. I hear somebody say, "Well, I wonder." I say, "Oh, stop right there." I don't say those words anymore. And I've seen it happen. This is horrible. I won't mention any names. I was in the store. There was a man and woman in there. They had kids of their own. They were both a stepmom, stepdad. Something had happened. The kids weren't supposed to be in the vehicle. They had people over. The stepmom gave them permission to go to the movies without her. They had a wreck and killed most of them. And so this lady come in the store. They were in there because I wasn't gonna bring it up. She came in there and she was praying for them and talking to them. And she said, I just couldn't imagine what that feels like. And I'm like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. And this River's talking about those feelings. And I just got it again. It's like, I remember that, her saying that. And I'm like, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. And then they left and she was talking to me and then I forgot about it. Within the year, I got a phone call, and that lady had been in an accident, and her 17-year-old daughter didn't make it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. But yeah, I mean, so I let things be. I don't, don't show me I'm all right. If I dream I'm doing something stupid, I'll just let it go. I ain't wondering what caused it. So, but yeah, I mean, I've had things like that happen. And it's just, the comment earlier, like, how are you not crazy? And sometimes I'm wondering if it's, I ask people sometimes, like, I asked y'all, do y'all ever have deja vu? I think a lot of people do. And I'm wondering if there's a connection from these kind of feelings like River has and some of the things he sees and some things, that y'all have seen and had happen. And then, is it connected or is it not directly connected, but a part of the same stuff? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we see, when I found out, I never did the science thing. So when I'm reading, and I started this to learn, and when I started reading the science, and I knew this, but I didn't think about it in different terms or different situations. But when I found out we can only see light spectrum from here to here, which I knew that, but there's so much that we can't physically see. So then I get to thinking, I at work thinking or whatever, and it's maybe something that scholars have put together before, but the people I've talked to, I'm like, well, no, wait a minute. What if Jerry tells me a story that he sees or shadow figures, or he sees ghosts, or every now and then he sees this or that. Well, what if we're all wired similar? We're all different too. What if you can see in a light spectrum that a lot of us can't? And what if that, whatever that is here and that is only seen through that spectrum, right? Because we've all heard the story now of the military that came up with the goggles and they put them on and they saw stuff out. They started shooting at stuff that nobody else could see and they thought they were nuts, or maybe they did know. Then that gets you into these deep discussions with alternate universes and portals and stuff like that. And
It's a never-ending rabbit hole.
yeah, exactly. The
Seriously.
cloaking.
Yeah.
You know, one of my
Jerry will tell you, I gotta go back and find that, but I've got a friend that's got some pretty damn good pictures of cloaking.
It's crazy.
yeah.
It
Hey, I
looks
need-
like the Predator.
Hey,
It's
I'll
insane.
send you. I believe you. I believe you because the day that we had crazy stuff happening, the big boulders throwing and the tree snapping and the hoof growls and the howls way off. This went on for like 15 minutes or so, maybe 20. And when Peyton turned and looked behind us, because he realized that by the time I did, if we got all this going on in front of us, just out of sight, this could be a tactic, right? So me and him's got this. We're on the same plane a lot of times. We don't have to say a whole lot. We can look at each other. Or me and my dad had our own little language out in the woods. We didn't have to talk. You know, we could. So he turns, and this still going on here, and he said, "Oh." I'm like, what is it? What is it? He said, you might not believe me, but he said, you see that tree right there? 20 yards, maybe, you know. He said something went from left to right and it looked heat wavy, but it was tall. And he said, I don't think I would have seen it if it hadn't went in front of this, on our side of this tree. And I'm like, oh shit. So, you know, we go through that mess, catch stuff on audio, and tickled to death that we have something. Mark Newbill goes over it and he called me. It was 30 minutes before I was going to go on their show. He said, well, I got finished with your audio. I said, oh, okay. And of course, the huff growl, air doesn't show up on that. You know, I know when I heard the two things of air come out and the power and the force that was behind it, and it was natural, a horse wouldn't get close to it. But it had that growl with it too, that huff. That's when I said the ugly words. And Mark took it out for me. I still have the main one. Right. I said, holy, yeah, you know, and I didn't realize I said it, but at that point right then, I knew we were undergunned. You know what I mean? Whatever that was, and already knew it was throwing this big stuff, but I was scared, and I had my kid out there. Well, now we got this behind us. I went back a few days later because we left apples out there, a couple oranges. And I joke around, and somebody said, well, what was you doing? I said, well, we left a couple apples and a couple oranges. Apparently, Bigfoot don't like oranges. We pissed it off. But nothing. We had raked out an area, the leaves, and got the fresh dirt. And so anything stepped in there to get those apples, it had to step on that dirt.
Mm-hmm.
We never had anything, you know, nothing ever, no, even bugs didn't even take those things, which I thought was strange. I mean, it never touched them. I went back and I was doing the video, and that's when the tree that was hanging in the vines had been there forever. There was no wind or anything, and it decides it wants to fall while I'm there. Okay, that can happen. But when we're looking at the video, it looks like it's pulled on one side, not like the vine lets loose and the pressure falls off and it's straight, right? It's like it's manipulated on this end a little bit, and then it lets loose. It bows a little bit, and then it lets loose. So I'm going through and sending it to Peyton and Don and letting them look at it. And he sends me a snapshot, a screenshot of the video, and said, "Look, it's still up here when you're walking in," and he knew exactly where it was at. And he said, "It's still up here." When he sent that picture, I read what he texted, and I looked up and I saw what looked like a reflection on something solid. And I zoom in on it, and I'm like, "Oh no!" Now it could have been pixelation, but it's funny that the all right, the pixelation is behind the tree. It's still up, right? The tree is not pixelized, if that's a word. It's clear. And on down below it, same thing. Now, I didn't know anything about the cloak thing really, but when I see it, I know the predator thing. And when I look at it, y'all, I'm looking right in the eyes, at the nose and mouth and chin and a forehead that it looks, and the sun is behind me. And what I noticed was something reflecting, right? I did the red circle thing. I was like, oh crap. And I drew the circle and I sent it to him. And I'm not going to tell you what he sent back. And I think Don was in on it. And he said, I think I see something. And Peyton was like, it's looking right back at us. And then Don, he's like, oh, once you see it, you're like, now it could have been the pareidolia and pixelation, but I've had people tell me that it's a certain type of energy, maybe the cloaking or whatever. But y'all, if somebody can tell me what it is, I'm all for it. If you can debunk it or whatever. And I'm not saying it is that, but it's so scary looking. Because now look, if this forehead had been reflecting, but the sun had been over that way, I wouldn't have thought much about it. That'd have been a negative, right? Like, well, that ain't right. But the sun was hitting me in the back of the head, which would have been hitting it right on, let's say, forehead. So I'm like, oh crap, that lines up. So then I go over the video over and over and over, and I see a shadow, and I go and I debunk that because I go over every second, and I can't find this spot. I can't find it, and he just happened to screenshot it. It could be because he screenshot the video, but you go look at the video on YouTube, and it's crystal clear. So how does that happen?
That's weird. Yeah,
I'll send y'all the picture and let you look at it. It's for fun because we'll never know what it was, right? But he did see something moving that looked like that in the same spot, and then by going by where the tree was, just guess measuring, this son of a gun would have had to been like 11 foot tall, and it's massive looking. So anyway, it's fun. I can't say what it is, but we all like looking at things. And if somebody sees something that says, "No, Roger, what it was is this reflection off of this and that," and because I've seen it with deer, you've seen trail cameras, and it'll catch a deer, and you get the eye shine, then you get a reflection behind it. Well, it's not behind it. It's something inside internal in the camera that's causing that to look like there's something behind it, right?
Yeah.
It's not always that. But what I'm saying is, if there's an explanation, I'm open to it. I mean, that's just, because I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that was a crazy place for a while, and I think if you go back again, there was we didn't know this at the time. We went back a few months later, and they had started framing the house, and we asked some people, like, when did they start building that house? So they started doing dozer work, January, February, whatever, they, a little at a time. So we didn't know it, but they were cleaning sometime. They started building like in the summer, which would have been, I think this was in March. So I think they started building maybe July. I don't know. But there you go again. You're tearing up something's home.
Right.
But anyway, I'm sorry, y'all.
That's
we got
no, don't be sorry.
Putting new lines in, so I'm waiting to see how that turns out.
there's people on there. And I knew he was crazy. Listen to him.
No, no.
But
That's good
Yeah.
stuff, man. Definitely
That's
going to
awesome.
have him back for another show.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
have him back.
Probably another 5 or 6.
Hey, anytime.
Yeah.
You know, if you have somebody on that's an expert in anything, I would love to, you know, sit by and listen and pick, you know, have questions or whatever. I mean, I'm all about learning.
Well, we get Spencer on here. That's an expert.
I ain't gonna say nothing. I ain't saying nothing. I'm staying away from it. About 10 smart ass things popped in my
We're
head.
not gonna ask him to tell us how to start fires, though.
Y'all,
Oh, he's coming back, Erica. Don't worry. He'll be back.
if Spencer, if they saw how, I mean, y'all see some of it, but if y'all saw some of the stuff like here us talking or the texting or whatever, it's like a, you would think we hate each other. I don't get to do it as
Oh,
much. I try
Spencer and
to.
I do that to each other all the time.
It's funny. Oh man, and
Yeah.
I've seen him get irritated before. He's good.
I'm sure he'll dish it out too, I'm sure.
Oh, he sends me the finger emoji on a regular basis. I just send it back to him.
And that's the thing. He's just reaping what he's sowing. A lot of times he starts it, and then he don't realize it. And then Misty can get him.
Spencer who?
Oh God.
She don't care.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
She does not. It's like it gets so bad. Sometimes me and Greg look like crickets. I ain't getting in this one, but it's all in fun though. I mean, that's the thing. You know, it's so funny. I mean, I'm so tickled. I was introduced to him just by chance, and that's kookaburra. Is that the thing I get hung in my britches sometimes? Or is that a kookaburra? Y'all got them up there?
Oh yeah. Used to get them all the time as a kid, running around the fields up here.
And Barry,
those things still stick to you.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's so country around here. I went into my doctor's office the other day, and he come in there, and he had stick tights all over his britches. I'm like, I said, where'd you get all them at? And he said, oh man, I didn't even realize. I went out to feed whatever, and I didn't realize. I said, oh, I ain't worried about it. But actually made me feel better about him.
I brushed up against some the other day, and I spent like 10 minutes pulling them all off my pants.
I wish I'd have seen it. I got to watch for that, Billy. I didn't see that. Misty put him off his own shell.
I tell you what, I don't know if Billy's told all of his stories, you know, publicly, but there's a reason why he's here.
Oh yeah.
Hey, y'all at the meet and greet. I hope JR ain't watching because I said this before. Is it because we were all comfortable with each other, and if something my daddy would have done, and they were Larry Porch and all of them were over there, they were splitting wood. No, it's not. No, it's not. I know what that is. And they were over splitting wood. Well, I mean, I've done that in the past, but I never was good at it. You know, I ain't gonna lie. And they were over there, and they were getting after it. Well, JR was having a little bit of trouble, and he did have a big piece of wood. And he was coming over, and he was hitting it, and it wasn't hitting just right. You know, it'll bounce sometimes.
Yeah.
They don't hit just right, whatever. He did that about 3 times in a row, and I was sitting on the back. There's always a smart ass tell you how to do it, right? And I said it before I realized it. I said, "Hey, JR." He stopped, looked. He was frustrated. He looked over. I said, "Hit it with the sharp end." I thought he was going to throw that axe at me. I don't know him well enough to be picking with him. I apologize to him later, but
That's funny.
But funny. that was a good time. Oh me, what?
Yeah.
I like Barry's. He knows what I'm talking about. I mean, I've listened to some of his stories and whatever, and so you when stuff like that happens to you, you have no choice to believe in something else is going on. You know, I just don't know what it is.
Yeah. I've been listening to Barry for a few years now, since back in carry on all days. So, but
Oh, and
Barry
that's
told us he's going to report me to YouTube if we go over his show.
what's that? What's that?
He says he's going to report us if we go over the time limit.
Well, we're 3:05, so 3 hours and 5 minutes.
We've well exceeded Barry's.
Yeah, I got to get up in 5 hours. So.
Oh Lord. Well, y'all, I'm fixing to have to go run to the restroom, and I appreciate y'all. I'm sorry it took so long, but
No,
we got to dig a trench
appreciate
tomorrow to put in a new water line. That's going to be exciting.
whew, oh Lord, better do it before it gets cold. I'll try to figure out what's going on with this thing and try to do some shows and stuff, but
great.
yeah, it's kind of I miss people in chat more than anything.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just stop by, I might not be feeling too good, and I'll stop by to say hey and other shows and stuff, and I'll hang around for a few minutes. Then, it's like it's hard to concentrate when you do. Y'all getting old.
Getting some of us ain't getting over there.
when you're hurting, it's hard to want to do anything.
Yep.
I'm still young, but it's catching up to me. All these years of
hard work,
livestock.
Yep. Your body wears out.
All right, River, just for you.
No, not. I don't think anybody. Anybody I've never heard. If they have, nobody told about it. The only thing is my dad started asking questions after whatever that was jumped off of that bank and landed behind the car. And when it landed in the road, it was 2 feet and it shook the road, Never saw it. And it's not far from here. It's not far from where I saw mine, but he was analytical enough. He knew whatever was breaking the trees. He thought it was a big bull at first, and then he said he heard it when it jumped. He just didn't know it jumped. He heard it lifted off, the leaves,
Yeah.
And then it landed in the road. It said it was boom, boom. And then it took off running towards him. And he said when the feet would hit the ground, each time it hit the ground, it was kicking rocks towards him. And he was screaming at my mom to get in the car because he had stopped to take a leak. She was stretching her legs. And he came to me. He didn't wake me up at night. He came to me the next morning and said, that's when he said, how big was that thing you said you saw? And when I told him, then I took him up to the tree, the limb. He said, there's no way. There's no way. I said, well, you're asking me, how big was the thing that landed in the road? He said, I felt it when it hit the ground.
Uh-huh.
On a gravel road, right? And there's your answer right there. I mean, what can do that? But when it was he told me, he said it was boom, boom, like almost instantaneously, but he said it was 2. And then he gets to remembering stories we heard, or he heard when I was little. Some of the stories I didn't know, but no, not from way back. Love you too, River.
Yep.
None of my family has ever told me, and it's a great opportunity for them to come clean right now. But I've had a lot of neighbors, and I promised I wouldn't. Somebody in the family, 5 years ago, had 2 things happen, and didn't know who to tell. And after they heard my first time I told my story, called me and thanked me because it put the pieces together. And that's a really good story. Let me run to the bathroom right quick. I'll tell you that right quick. It's pretty cool. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll be back. Be back in a second. Ow.
I'm going to run to the bathroom too.
All right. Take a bathroom break.
As everybody leaves me. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so much for 5 hours sleep tonight, I guess. Yeah. Gosh, he's got a lot to say. That's great. Good stuff. Good stuff, man. Billy Schilling, yeah. I'll have one of us will get a hold of you if you ever want to come on sometime. We'd like to hear some of your stuff too. It'd be awesome. Everybody, anybody, just let us know if you got some stuff to talk about. Thank you, Art. I think we got to give all the credit to Roger. He's the star tonight here still. Yeah. Good stuff. Come on back, guys, anytime.
I'm back.
Yeah, I hope the mic don't pick up bathroom sounds.
All right. Oh Lord. There you go.
I didn't leave my
Wow.
I didn't leave my earpiece on while I went to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Poor
First
Mary
time I-
came in, I didn't realize I'd left my headset on.
Yeah.
Well, the first time I ever went live on Facebook, when I knew I could do it, we were in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and I was at the Gangster Museum, and I thought I turned off the. I thought I turned it off. I went to the bathroom, and I pulled my phone out. I was still live. Thank goodness, only one person was watching. So
Yeah.
I ended it and deleted that real quick. But surgery update. No date yet. See, she said I got good news and bad news. He said we can do this. I said, what's the bad news? Well, that shot that you had to take 2 weeks ago, you can only have surgery. You got to wait 3 months. I'm like,
Oh.
So that was a week ago. So that's another 2 months and a week maybe. So anyway, he said, but we can get some things done. And I had to tell work, and then you got the recovery process. I'm gonna be out for a while.
I wasn't
Well,
gonna leave that up too long.
well, he was quick. That's all. But so we'll make this the last one. But River was talking about, somebody was talking about recent. Jeffrey was talking about recent. So this will be 6 years ago now, because last year, I got contacted. Hey, can I talk to you? And you cannot tell my name because you know my job. I'm like, yeah, sure. You can trust me. So he was sitting on the front porch with his 2 dogs. He said, when you explained what the Bigfoot sounded like, you said, I was watching because I was wanting to know some things because I've had some things happen to me. I said, how long ago? He said, about 5 years ago. I said, where at? He said, the family place. I'm like, okay. I said, so I know where he's at. As the ridges go, I saw the Bigfoot interstate ridge, maybe a small ridge, and then that place. It's not far. People think it is because they don't realize how roads work sometimes. And but if you get out and hunt and stuff, you know what connects properties and stuff. So he said he was on the porch one night, dogs out there. I don't know what he was doing, but he was sitting there relaxing, and he said, I heard what sounded like. He said, straight across from me, across that road and on that hill up there, which is where some things have happened in the past. He said it sounded like the mixture between a woman screaming and an elephant. He said, but when you said you felt it, that's when I was aha, because he said it hit me. He said both of my dogs, he said one of them peed on the porch, and they were trying to get in the house, and I couldn't hardly get the door open. He said I almost peed on the porch. He said, I ain't never heard nothing like that before in my life. It was way over there, yet it was loud, and I felt it, whatever. Got in the house, scared the crap out of me. Went to work next day, kind of forgot about it. Still in the back of his mind. A few weeks later, deer season opened up. So where he hunts is behind him. 3 big fields. The back corner spot. My mom and dad used. Well, never mind. I can't. I'll give it away if I say so. Okay. So anyway, he said, you know where the certain the blind is. I'm like, oh yeah, the nice one with plexiglass and all that bull crap. He said, yeah. I said, I've been in it. He said, okay, good. He said, I was sitting there. He said, I parked at the top corner, and he said, on my 4-wheeler, and I walked diagonally across the field to that corner down there. I'm like, yeah. He said, I go in, I shut the door, and I get my heater going, and I'm sitting there, and it's probably 45 minutes before daylight. And he said, I sit there all the time, and there's a hickory tree. It's a big, huge hickory tree. And I always think it'd be a shame if somebody cut that down, because somebody does stuff, smoking meat, that would like to have it. And it would be a shame if that thing got cut down. So I always look at that thing and think, wonder how old it is, whatever, thinking. He said, well, I just got there, and I'm sitting in a chair, and I heard something outside. I couldn't see it, but I heard something outside. It was making some like heavy breathing noises. I thought I heard it walking. I wasn't sure. And then all of a sudden I hear this tree break. He said it's green wood, and it sounds like, y'all know what it sounds like. When it's close, it's just a breaking tree, a green tree can be loud. And so he said, I heard this, and I heard this gruff air, something mad, whatever, and I heard that break. And he said, whatever it was, I started figuring out it was big. Whatever it was big. And he said, I didn't know what to do. So he said, I slid my chair up to the door. And he said, I got my gun ready, and I'm thinking, if it starts in, I'll feel the chair move, and I'll wheel around and shoot whatever it is. He said he was up till daylight, 40 minutes or whatever, and he said he was terrified. And he heard it walking around outside, making a little bit of noise, and then it left. He said it was the longest wait to daylight he's ever had. He said when the sun started coming up where I could see, he said I noticed a white spot on the hickory tree. He said I couldn't tell what it was with the light, but there was this bright, looked white. And I know it hadn't been there before, because I look at this tree all the time, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then it got a little more daylight, and he said the limb that was about 10 foot up there, a big limb, that's what he had heard. It had been snapped off. It was fresh. And I keep in mind, he had walked diagonally from the top of that hill across that to one corner to the other, diagonally, straight line. He said, when it got daylight enough for me to leave, he said, I was thinking, well, I wonder what happened to that tree. And he opened the door, and he looked around, and he come out on the steps, and he looked the way he had to go back to that other corner, and that limb had been broken and thrown 20 yards. The whole thing, he said it was a big one, had been thrown out into that field, and it was not blocking him, but it was in that path. He said, if it had been there when I come in, I'd have tripped over it. I'd have seen it. I'd had to go around it, or whatever. He said it was not there when I walked in. So whatever it was mad. And he said I couldn't think of what it could be, but I've never been back hunting. He said any kind of hunting. He's never been in the woods. He said, now that I've heard your story and I know how close that was, and I said, look, mine's not the only one. That's just the only one you've heard. And I said, as far as I know, they never hurt anybody. But you'd be surprised at the people that's come, just like you, that can't tell it because of your job. And he said, well, and this kind of got me started. He said, well, I appreciate you stepping out on a limb and telling your story, so people like me know what probably happened to them. He said, I was confused. I didn't know. Now that I've heard, that, and he, as far as I know, he ain't watched any more shows. He's not that interested in it. He's pretty sure he knows what it was.
Yeah.
And he don't care to know any more about him.
Yeah, I don't want to be reminded of it. Yeah.
Right.
How long ago was that when that happened?
So he told me last year, he said 5 years. So we're talking 6 years, which was surprising. That's pretty recent. And
Yeah.
now 2008, when the guy I went to school with, his son is my son's same age. And he said, "Oh, your daddy," he said, "you doing Bigfoot stuff?" He said, "Yeah."
That's when I got screamed at, was 08.
Yeah, he said, "Well, my dad never talked about stuff like that." And then one night in 2008, him and my stepmom was out in the Jeep riding with the top and doors off, and almost hit one. And Peyton said, he said, you gotta
hit one?
I almost hit one." And so he's like, "Tell your dad he needs to talk to my dad." I know him. I just never. And I saw him at the gas pumps one day here in this little town. I said, "Hey man, your son said I need to talk to you." He said, "About what?" I said, "Well, I got a little YouTube channel I just started, and I'm talking about Bigfoot." I said, "I saw one when I was 14. He said, "Man," he said, "let me tell you." But his son said he got obsessed with it after that, looking at, trying to figure out. Well, okay, quickly, he said, we were riding down the road, and he said, "You know where that bridge is?" I'm like, "Yeah." So that means there's a little creek there. We're riding down the road. There's a field on this side, the woods on the left side. He comes stepping out of the woods into the road. And it happened so fast, I thought I hit him. He said, I was swerving, and I didn't have the top or the doors on the Jeep. He said that ambient light from the headlights, he said, I looked up. He said, I was looking up his nose.
Oh,
He
my.
said, Roger, he said he flinched like this, and he snarled like, "Oh, crap, I done messed up." And he said, I'm looking at his nose, at his teeth. He said, if he wanted to, he could have grabbed me and snatched me out of there. He said, I miss him. My wife is screaming. He said, I want to go back. She won't let me. I get her home, and I can't stop thinking about it. I get on Google and all this stuff. And, I said, I've been that way since '08. He said, and so I knew who owned the land. I went to the old man. I said, hey, can I ask you a few questions? He said, sure. He said, you ever seen anything weird out here? He said, I've seen the big boy twice. He's a big one, ain't he? Like that. He knew exactly what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So that's 2008. And, then you got what, 2019-ish.
Yeah.
Now we've had this crazy stuff happen to us, but, with even if we've got good evidence or whatever, and people tell me what it is, and the tracks I found at LBR, there's no doubt what they were. Right. There was nobody there. There was different sizes. But anyway, that was freaking amazing. That to me was like, I was scared, number one. And they're like, "Oh, why didn't you take a plaster cast?" What I thought, if I'd had a whole truckload of that shit, I wouldn't have been up there.
You're right, Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, and
go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
I got one more from Roger. He said he was done on the last from River.
Yeah, I did the same thing with I should have had plaster cast stuff with me when we were camping, but I'm like, how am I going to haul all that? We're camped 3 miles in. I can't be toting all that shit.
I tell you what's cool. Kane I saw one of his videos, and he had that LiDAR on his smartphone.
Yeah. I should have had it with. I didn't do that.
And Peyton had it on his, but it needed updating. And we've been in a couple places. Now, he did get a smaller one, and it's pretty cool. But, even then, and look, you could have 100 casts, and even, and I don't even know what I'm trying to accomplish. I mean, why? I don't know sometimes why I keep putting myself in position I feel kind of safe. And now with the coyotes and all that stuff, I feel like I'm okay on that, because we position ourselves a lot of times, even if they try to slip up on us. If you got a fire, they ain't gonna bother you. Yeah. I've had them come up real close with you yell at them, tell them to leave or whatever. They're not gonna get but so close. But
all right, what's your take on reptilian government things? That's a question from River. Abbreviated version.
Let's put it this way. I don't know but it's possible.
Yeah.
Um,
Anything's possible with that
Yeah.
well,
body of people.
well, the more I hear about it, from people that's been studying this stuff for a long time, I've got one guy that, unfortunately, he's been right about a lot of crap over the last 30 years. When he started talking about shit like that, I'm like, no, I don't, no,
Yeah.
no, I don't, don't, you don't be
No.
doing that, because there's people that talk about stuff, they're way ahead of their time, or they know history. Actually, I mean, we're naive enough to think stuff's just now happening. I feel like there's stuff been happening all along. I feel like we've lost a lot of knowledge. We've lost a lot of education throughout different times in history.
Mhm.
I watched a really good documentary about how this was before the flood in North Carolina and East Tennessee.
Yeah.
How a lot of times, a lot of this rock layers and stuff happen really more quickly than we've been taught. And it was showing a way the Grand Canyon could have been formed in 8 days. And I thought, I don't know about that. But then the scientists started showing, and I'm like, oh, okay. It's just like Mount St. Helens. It changed everything quickly. Now people start digging 100 years from now, and they start going through layers of stuff. And they're like, oh, this happened, a million years ago. Well, no, it didn't. It happened in 80,
Mhm.
whatever. Then after I watched it, we had the floods, and you see how that all changed. Some of those creeks, it wiped towns out. It brought in layers of sediment. It brought in layers of stuff, and it does happen it can happen pretty quick. So, and I know it sounds crazy, but I think I posted it in Woodwalkers, but it's about an hour and a half long,
Right.
and it's really interesting. So there you go again.
Yep.
If they lied about that, what else did they lie about?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sneaky.
Well, let me. Here's why I think it's possible. Because when I was about 17, is when I saw the UFO. Clear sky, late in the year, probably about this time of year, no leaves on the trees. It came across, and it went down behind and this is in the same area as the Bigfoot activity, but this was, when I was 17. So it went down. I'm like, should I go get somebody? And I'm like, well, no, the internal voice, no, you might miss something. It came back up, same level. And if it went north, south, east, or west, I wouldn't be telling this story, but I was watching it. I
So
was
you
watching.
all live in the central time zone. A little different over here in the east.
Oh yeah, it's just
That's
10:30.
okay.
It's just 10:30 here. What y'all
It's
talking
11:40 here.
about?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And
No, but
Oregon's 3 hours behind us.
I know he's probably eating breakfast. River needs to give us the lottery numbers.
It's
Yeah.
Wednesday. It's Wednesday in Australia, so we should.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember years ago. I knew somebody from Australia years ago, and they said something. Oh, I live in Adelaide. I live in southern Australia. It's cold. I'm like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
And
Winter.
yeah, I wasn't thinking it was closer, and then the north is closer to the equator. I just, my southern schooling didn't really teach us anything about that.
Did they call him Jeff Barry by chance? Oops. River lives in the future. Yep. Man, Raj, you got a lot to say.
I'm sorry.
And I know you. No. Don't be sorry. And I know you got plenty more, and we're definitely going to do round 2 here
Yeah.
sometime.
Well,
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
just
As
it just
your
helps to
time
talk
allows.
about it.
Yeah.
The comment about I don't know why you ain't going crazy or whatever. I mean, you talk about it with like-minded people, and you'll be surprised at you talk about the body language. Some people will laugh for it, but some of them will lean forward. And there's more people. They have certain things happen, but they don't believe in this. Like I had a guy. This was a classic. He said, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I gotta start me a Bigfoot podcast talking about Bigfoot. You believe in that shit?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute, hold up. Ain't you the same guy that told me you saw a 3-foot troll in your bathroom hallway that time when you went to the bathroom?" And he said it was evil looking and blah blah blah. And he said, "Yeah, I reckon I did." So I'm talking about an animal or flesh and blood anyway.
Right.
But anyway, yeah.
River just seen some sort of troll-like creature in his kitchen.
There you go. I mean,
Was it a mirror? Was it a mirror? You probably had too much to drink. No, that's what my friends would have said to me.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, you sure it was my favorite? You sure it was a bobcat? You sure it wasn't a bobcat?" God bless.
Yeah.
But no,
it's just an owl.
Hey, I say that about the mirror. I've had a mirror more than once in my life scare the crap out of me by being half asleep. And my mom one time, y'all know those industrial mops? She was working at a store, managing the store, and she had it standing up, and it had predator hair, and had slits in the the head of it.
Yep.
And she took a picture of it after she almost got her heart rate down. She said, "I just walked around the corner at work, and this son of a bitch was staring back at me. I about died, and that mop was standing there." But anyway, I'm getting goofy now. But it's all, yeah. I've had fun.
Yeah. It's been a blast. Yep. Future show number 2 coming soon.
We're gonna have to do another one.
Yeah.
We gotta get Harley on again too.
Yeah, Harley's. I'm gonna get a hold of Harley and catch up with him and get some stuff going there. And Mr. Blaylock, we got to get him some internet service. So he said the wind's really bad out there. So
the storm hit them tonight, so they got real bad storms out there right now. Yep.
That knocked him out of the loop for the night. So
well, if it's hitting him right now, it'll be here in 4 or 5 days, won't it?
If it's headed this way, yeah.
What are you doing?
Cobweb on my pheasant.
Grab the local broom. All right, man. We appreciate it, Roger. Appreciate you, man, coming on.
I just hate it took so long. I just had, that had all that stuff happen, took a mental break, and
understandable.
Yep. Yeah, joint pain is not fun.
No. I've got a tore up right shoulder, and it's way different than a hip by all means,
but it still
limits you quite a bit. It limits you quite, especially when you got one. Sometimes you got to go get out of the floor. So anyway,
yeah. Well, you know what? I feel lucky to be here because I've had some crazy stuff happen as far as growing up with Evel Knievel, the Fall Guy, and Dukes of Hazzard. It's a wonder. It's a wonder any of us are still alive.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Barry
what I'll do.
On you, man. I'm telling you, Barry is on you tonight, Jeffrey. Wow.
And what I'll do is I'll wait till tomorrow when I can go back and I'll read every one of the comments, but it has to be like the next day, I think.
Oh yeah.
Where they post the ones that are in chat. So I hate that I missed. I could have watched it if my computer if the stupid computer operator had been smart.
All right. With that said, I guess we'll be back next Tuesday, right, Jeffrey?
Yep. I gotta see what we're doing.
I'm gonna reach out to Harley here later in the week.
All right.
See what he's doing.
I'm working on a few. I haven't got anything for next week yet.
He'll be doing a show from a bunk bed next time we.
No, that was our old co-host.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. No.
Y'all have to send me a message who that was. I think I missed that one, or I forgot.
Some things are best forgotten.
Oh my God!
Well, if you come
I'm glad
down,
I-
if you come
I'm
down
glad
to
that
film
ship sailed.
at Chapel Hill, sometime for the tractor pull or whatever, just let me know.
Yeah, I'll
we,
get
we we can ride around and I can show you some of these places that I've talked about. So.
yeah, we'll have a bonfire and do a live show. Let's do
Well,
that. Jeff and I
what-
is only 5 miles apart. I'm gonna go over to the farm over there. We're gonna go out in the back
Yeah.
field where he got yelled at, and we're gonna light a fire and dare something to come out.
well, what's funny is the places I get to go, there's no signal. I can't do. I'd have to film it and then upload it. But
I might
I've
be able-
tried, man. I wish they'd get a tower out there so bad, but
We
I've
got
already was
transmission
gonna
lines that
try
run
to-
right through here, so they're doing construction on it soon. They're adding more. They're putting a secondary line in.
Yeah. That's
So
a
I'm sure that'll stir up some activity.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
oh yeah, that's gonna be fun
Yep.
stuff.
hide your
All right.
oranges.
We'll be back next Tuesday, Roger. Thank you. And I'm not trying to cut you off by no means, but it's almost midnight here. So I'm going to bed.
You're good. Heather went to bed like an hour ago. She's probably like,
Yeah,
she
mine,
knows.
yeah.
She knows.
Mine
she's
came to
used
the
to it.
door twice. So, are you still alive? Yes,
Yeah. All right, y'all.
But-
We'll see you later.
for sure. And we'll
Good
see everybody
night.
next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Bye
Hang in
bye.
there.